turn 3 because that one block is incredibly important when you sit at 30 life, and you can sort of get it on demand. There's almost no situation where you want to have a resource on your own turn as Kano. That makes me think that William has sort of deduced that this matchup frequently doesn't go past turn 3. In which case, it is absolutely the correct piece of equipment to go. But a big tell from William there, bringing out the Spellfire Cloak. We want to talk about some breakpoints and some key numbers to think about. The combo is a sort of base 32 damage, assuming you have the resources, right? So assuming you have 10 resources and a 1-cost card in between your Aether Wildfire and Blazing Ether, which is going to be the most standard. It will do 1 damage as well, base, so it could be literally any replacement level blue. The base damage of that combo is 32 damage, and it takes 10 resources. Conversely, it takes 9 resources if you somehow find something like an Aether Dart or a Zap, some 0 cost, but you're going to be using the heuristic of, I need 10 resources on this turn in order to execute a 32 damage Aether Wildfire. So looking at the side of something like Yuanji Lee, the critical life total for him is kind of 32, but because of the bracers, it's actually going to be 27, because you would have to assume that Yuanji would, if he had a resource, would block 1 damage on the Aether Wildfire. For every damage you block on Aether Wildfire, it is -5 damage on the entire damage total of the combo. And then it's -2 if you block something on the middle card of the combo, and then -1 if you block it off the Blazing Ether. So that's sort of the easy heuristic math. That is the best turn 1 from Kano, by the way. That is a energy potion and what will likely be a pass. But yeah, that is super, super good.
Yeah, that's actually kind of absurd that we already found the energy potion. I know you highlighted that at the beginning, saying it's going to come down to how fast you find it. And right out of the gate, we have one. And if you are Yuanji, that tells you absolutely, I think, have to go all gas, no brakes now. There might have been, a little, okay, do I pull back, whatever. But between seeing the cloak and now the potion, it is just a race at this point.
Yeah, really, really, really good start for Kano. I mean, that is absolutely what you need, especially in an aggressive matchup like that. Like, the energy potions against a matchup like Oldhim, they're important, right? But you have so long to find them, and if you're going to do something like a double Aether Wildfire pitch stack, you need 2 of them. But it's deterministic. You will find them, they exist in your deck, and you will go through 3 cycles. Against something like Lexi, depending on how many tomes you find, you can only look at the top 10, 20 cards of your deck sometimes, and yeah, the energy potions could not be there. So finding one on turn 0 is best case scenario. So we see a Frostlock come here from Yuanji as well.
I was just going to say, we see this Frostlock, and this is one of those actually kind of annoying cards because it can kind of mess with your equipment suite, and while you don't normally want to block things, that one might have been a consideration, but we're seeing the pass here, so the snaps get activated because there were no sources of natural go again on that. Yuanji going to extend the turn here and continue to pressure.
Yep, so it might look like a really early snaps out of Yuanji. I mean, I think Yuanji drew a pretty bad hand, most likely, and yeah, it's just correct. Like, this matchup, this could end on the following turn. As Kano maybe does a little poke on Kano's turn, then we go to Yuanji's turn. Yuanji only has like 2 cards because he pitched for some Arcane Barrier, and then Kano could kill him on that turn. So it is advantageous to literally get value out of Snapdragons whenever you can. So makes sense out of Yuanji here. Just sort of debating the next card to play here. Does look like they have an Infecting Shot as well as a Ice Quake. So some options available.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, I don't think there is such thing as an early use of snaps against Kano, or any of your cards for that matter, because you can blink and the game can be over. It is really absurd what this deck can do when it fires on all cylinders.
Yeah, Yuanji activating that quiver and finding a red drill shot on the top. Bit of a clunky hand before we're able to find that card, so we are able to play Infecting Shot with Go again, and then it's going to be a follow-up with the Drill Shot. Honestly, he turned what could be a very mediocre turn, where you would have played 2 arrows off of a Snapdragon into something serviceable. You're not really putting too much pressure on Kano. Kano does work very well off of 2-card hands in these. I say early to mid game, but that's, in these matches the first literal like turn of the game, and then we're in the end game. But Kano does work really well off of 2-card hands. We could see pass over to Kano's turn, play Voltic Bolt, poke you a little bit, tax cards out of your hands, then we go back to your turn. And with an energy potion on the board, Aether Wildfire potentially being an arsenal, we're setting up for a combo already off that.
So 2 cards out of the hand of William with the blocks there, just kind of keeping the health afloat. As you said, likely just a poke here because we do need to get that health. Unless we have like a big combo, we do need to get that health a little bit lower before we start considering trying to end the game.
Just a pass is pretty freaking bad, to be honest. That's very surprising to block with 2 cards, not block the Frostlock, and they have to completely pass. I guess it's just the nature of the hand and maybe getting taxed by that Frostlock, which is really unfortunate to just kind of have to go straight back over to Yuanji here. We looked like we had potential, like a little bit of advantage for Kano. Yuanji stumbling a bit, having a weaker turn than you would expect, but yeah, unfortunate here. We are leading with a Falcon Wing, so 3 go again, going down to 22.
Yeah, it's possible. So there's 2 scenarios here. Either William's hand was clunky, or maybe he is very close to an outstanding super combo, and the Frostlock just put him off of it. So he's like, all right, I'm not going to interrupt this. I'll take a turn off, block a little bit, but keep those 2 cards, and then maybe the reason you're not playing him is they're key pieces, and he's like, all right, I'm just going to reset, and if there's no relevant on-hits, then we'll go.
So, yeah, I mean, the thing about Kano is there really isn't a key piece that you could potentially have in your hand because the Aether Wildfire most likely needs to be an arsenal. Everything outside of that is replacement level, with the best card you being able to have in hand is something like a Lessons in Lava. But in that scenario, you would never pass, right? You would just play the Lessons in Lava, put the next Lessons in Lava on your deck, because the main thing you need to do is actually tax the Ranger player. You need to take cards out of their hand so that they're incentivized to play those cards out and maybe not have access to 3 instances of Arcade Barrier on the 3 different parts of your combo. Because like we talked about, that's going to block 8 damage. And Yandri's sitting at 40 and your critical breakpoint is 32. You've got work to do before you combo Yandri. It's almost... It is possible, but it is an extreme outlier that we would see any sort of damage threshold go above 32 unless there was a Lessons Lava in the middle, but we're not going to see just like randomly double Aether Wildfire or double Blazing Ether. It just doesn't really happen. So I think it was just a bit sort of locked out from that Frostlock. Already sitting at 11, I think we had a great start, but now we're sort of in a bad spot as Kano because the worst position to be in is you find your combo, right? But you can't actually present lethal, and Yuanji can just dump his hand into you, and you're forced to block. As soon as you're forced to start blocking, even when you do have the cards, the game is literally already over as Kano.
So very important to note during that last exchange, there was a Winter's Bite that forced the pitch. Yeah, they are kind of resolving that now, and I think off that draw, William was just passing again then because that pitch was on Yonji's turn in response to the Winter's Bite. So if they are reconciling that, that might be yet another pass.
Okay, so now I'm starting to get a little confused. I'm trying to think. I'm racking my brain here. Is there any reason why you would just pass like that back to back? Is there any cards you could have in with having access to effectively 3 resources on board? I don't think so.
This is why I was saying that maybe it is something peculiar like a double Wildfire, a double Blazing, because otherwise I can't come up with a scenario why you would be doing this either, right?
It just doesn't have the resources for the double Wildfire. That's the problem, right?
And that might be the hang-up. So
double Wildfire is 15. Well, if you double pump on the first Wildfire. So if we talked about the base combo, it's 15. You go from 10 to 15 resources. You can disperse that to 32 if you don't pump anything, but then you're also doing like no damage into AB1. So double Wildfire is just not an out for him here, I don't think. I mean, I just don't think he has the... So... I don't know. Maybe he just has a really clunky hand or something. We got to see. I mean, this, at the very least, is going to be very entertaining to try to understand what is in our Kano player's hand as he's passed for pretty much the entire game. Only played an energy potion so far. I know Yuanji Lee is probably feeling pretty comfortable. Just 40.
I was just about to ask you, if you're the player on the other side, do you feel good that the Kano has shown you nothing?
Depends if you know. Depends if you know the math. If you don't know the math, you might be thinking that there's some sort of cosmic power that's about to just absolutely exit you from this game. But if you know the math, it's just it doesn't really happen. It's possible. You know, Kano just has that. So Kano is a non-deterministic combo deck. So it always has this, you know, the one percenters of the one percenters where, you know, William doesn't have the cards, doesn't have the resources, is not on board, but then just, you know, Kano, Tome, double blue, Kano, Tome, double blue, Kano, Sonic Boom, into a Wildfire, completely discounted, and we go, right?
Right.
Those, you actually can't even, I don't even think you can mentally do all the permutations of you just hitting the, you know, the Kano nuts off the top. But in terms of like combos in hand and lines that you will take in 99.9% of your games, yeah, we can't double Wildfire from here. I also think I see Mind Warp in hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, now that we actually get a little bit of a glimpse there, I was trying to see if we could get a peek into the future, because that's the closest thing to seeing William's hand that we've had so far spectating this, and I am just as curious as I'm sure our fans watching at home are, because this is very rare that somebody goes this deep into a game, just in general, not even on Kano, just in general, and we've seen so few cards from them. We've seen a couple of blocks, the one potion, and that is it. That arsenal has also been there, I believe, since turn 0, because there's been nothing that has interacted with that zone, and certainly nothing played from that zone. So we've got the 2 blocks. We have the energy. I think Yonji's doing the same thing we are. He's saying, all right, we've seen 3 cards this entire game. What's going on here?
Yeah, so, I mean, what could potentially happen, right? And I think this is the more likely line, but it does not justify passing up until now, which is Yonji extends into William. William does the 32 damage-ish combo, and then we go back to William's turn. William passes, then we go back to Yuanji's turn, and William kills Yuanji through Arcane Barrier 1. And that can happen. It's just it's kind of a weak line, right? It's not deterministic. Things can go wrong. Yuanji can kill you. Yuanji can have access to Arcane Barrier. You can simply miss off the top because you'll have no access to Storm Striders. It's possible, but it's not the best out. And even if that was the line to take to win the game, it doesn't mean that you would pass on those previous turns. So, yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see the context of this hand. Yuanji just trying to figure it out. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, it is dubious, even if you do sort of understand what's possible.
Yeah, the number of times that he's pointed at that potion means I think Yonji is doing the mental math, right? Trying to see how many resources. He's also kind of pointing over toward the node, and now we see, I think he's saying, okay, if he has the best possible hand here, right? These resources, this pumps, like he's playing the Kano player's hand in his head so he knows what to play around. And I think that's what's so interesting about this matchup is a lot of times when you're playing Flesh and Blood, you absolutely account for what your opponent's doing, right? And you have to say, okay, do they block this way? What could they come back with? But with Kano specifically, it's not just as simple as what are the attacks I expect. It's literally, as you said, non-deterministic sometimes. So how do I navigate the unknown? And it looks like Yonji's decided that this is going to be the best option. We're going to follow this up. I believe that's the Heat Seeker there for 6.
So I see William has Lessons in Love in hand, which is the critical card to have. Like, obviously you need Aether Wildfire and Arsenal. If you don't have that, we're not really doing anything. We're not cooking with. But after that, you need Lessons in Lava. So you don't need it, right? Because you can Ragamuffin's Hat basically any replacement level card onto the top of your deck if you have Blazing in hand. But if you have Lessons, you don't need Blazing, because basically you Ragamuffins the Lesson on top of the deck, then the Lessons gets buffed by the Wildfire, and the Lessons goes and fetches the Blazing Ether.
Whoa.
Yeah, conversely, there's another line there, which if you have a lot of resources, like a double energy potion, you play Aether Wildfire, you play the Lessons in Lava, which you Ragamuffin on top, then you go grab another Lessons in Lava, and then you play the Blazing Ether. But that's a lot more resources, and there's no way that William has access to that right now. Well, and I literally think that's a Mind Warp, because that's a Kano card that I don't really recognize in hand.
I was going to say, there's something going on. Yeah, I was going to say there's something going on here, because William took the initial damage, the 4, then they resolved the Heat Seeker, and then the breakpoint was the 1 more damage there. So after all of that waiting,
yeah, I mean,
it's just some blocks.
William's hand was garbage. Like it was. Like there's no reason to pass there. He just had blues and Mind Warp. Like that's not because he just effectively blocked there. And now you're back to basically the turns that we passed three turns ago, but now it's 40-6, right? Now you're facing Yuanji about to have 1,000,000 cards in hand, and probably the first attack is going to be lethal. And you have no equipment to block with. That's why something like Fatal Spring Tunic is so good, because they attack you for 6, you're on 6, you block with Tunic, you literally get an entire other card that can represent something like 3 resources in the opponent's hand to be played out.
So the interesting bit here now is that we have a Rain Razors into a 3 of a kind.
Yeah.
With William at 6.
Hey, you gotta kill him now. I mean, he's gonna have infinite cards on this thing, but for the rest of this turn, if you let that 3 of a kind resolve. But I mean, there is almost, and I wish I could say there was no way. I wish I could say there's no way that William could kill Yuanji through having these 2 resources floating, card in hand, etc. There's no strict line, right? It is just pure randomness off the top of the deck. He has to find a Tome of the Aetherwind or something, draw 2 blues, maybe find a Sonic Boom, chain that into another Sonic Boom, chain the Sonic Boom into an Aether Wildfire, find all this stuff. It gets ridiculous. It's possible, but it is, I think we're dipping below like a 1% on those lines. Like,
yeah,
it's
got to be
unlikely.
either something like that, or you just like rip tome into tome into tome, where you're just like chaining resources, or
yeah. I think that if he ripped triple tome, which nets you 1 blue card each time, he still might not even be in a position to kill from 40. Like, probably has to tome into blues and then find the Sonic Boom.
Right.
And probably find another Sonic Boom, which then finds an Aether Wildfire or a Blazing Ether. Like, it's. Yeah, I mean, that's the fun part of Kano.
Yeah, I mean, that is the fun part of Kano. I will say the new piece to this puzzle is that we went so long not knowing what was in William's hand, and now we're back to that same scenario finally, right? We had the blocks go through. This is 3 fresh cards, so all that time that William was sitting on that hand, now he's got new math to do, and we can kind of see him mulling over what to do in response to this 3 of a kind.
I mean, what he's thinking is, can I kill Yuanji right now? The answer is no, by the way, most likely.
Well,
but
we're going to try it anyway, because we've got a Cloak and a Strider's activation.
Yeah, if you let Yuanji resolve 3 of a kind, I think you're just dead for sure. Okay, so, all right, so let's do this. We have Storm Striders, Crucible Aethers. There's the Aether Wildfire. This is only going to be pumped once. We have Metacarpus, no trigger. Are we going to pay for it? Currently +5 on the Aether Wildfire. We are going to pay for it. So we are at 6. Yuanji having access to a single version of Arcane Barrier. Like I said, this, assuming the middle card is a 1 power, is going to be a 32 damage combo. If it's Lessons in Lava, could be more. Each one is going to be +2 above that 1 damage base. Oh, maybe taking back the Metacarpus node here. That's pretty concerning, then. If the math was done incorrectly initially on the Metacarpus node and it was taken back. Yeah, I mean, so Yuanji is not going to die, I don't think. Okay, we hit for 4. Now I think, and a snapback.
Was it that the node went back, or was it just that he...
No pay. He did, I think he took it away. Like, I don't want to do that. All right, so we take for 6. This is a snapback.
So that's going to make the next thing the instant.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of a weak. Ragamuffins it on top of the deck. Maybe find the blue for the Blazing Ether. Like, he literally has to hit the blue as well. Oh, it's a tome. Okay, I mean.
Oh, so this is probably why we had the delays. He was trying to find the continuation of the combo, and the tome is just like a Hail Mary.
No, the tome is a Hail Mary. If you ever see a Kano Ragamuffins a tome on top of their deck, they're in a losing position. It can win you games, but you only do that last resort. Like, you would you'd rather just do the combo. You don't need, because this is just variance, and it's variance not in your favor when you have to put the tome on top of the Ragamuffins.
But that being said, this is that scenario when you're at 6 and your opponent leads with Rain Razors 3 of a kind. Like, this is there is no other option moment of the game.
Because the best card in your deck doesn't even kill him, right? If that Tome of the Aether one is Blazing Ether, it doesn't even die. So he has to keep digging. He needs to find more tomes.
Yeah, it looks like what ended up happening was he found some blues, then blind Kano'd and hit
Red Wildfire, Aether Flare. So that's pretty good, but I mean, you have to find the Blazing, and you don't have the resources for it unless you find another tome, right? We have 2 cards in hand. Let's assume both are blues, right? One plays Aether Wildfire, and then the other Kanos. I guess you could have enough, but it's tight, and they both have to be blues, and it has to be the top card of the deck. I mean, this is straight off the top, right? This is via unknown information, so we'll have to see.
I normally get really
it's a red snapback too.
Yeah, I normally get really excited when we do like the blind azaleas, but blind Kanos are, I think, some of the most intense moments in any game because it quite literally decides the fate of the match.
This is a fat wildfire, to be honest. Or sorry, fat flare. Like, this flare is coming in for so much damage, and if you find Blazing Aether, I think you win the game. But I mean, this is not a normal Kano combo line. This was, I played my Aether Wildfire, played my snapback, and I just went for the
I was going to say this was Hail Mary Tome,
Yeah.
but sometimes that's what Kano does. So we're going to see if this is enough to get William out.
And it's a red snapback, too. So this is, I think William literally has a blue and can only win if the top of his deck is Blazing Aether. Or, of course, it's Tome, and then we're still just digging for the Blazing Aether. But this is just coming in for 7. Coming in for 7. And Yuanji would go down to 23. Then we have 7 plus 4. 11. It's a lot of math, but Yuanji dead, basically.
Yeah.
We find Blazing, I think.
I have to imagine that.
Yeah, so, Yuanji would be at Yuanji's at 23, right? So, okay, there's the blue. We go 7 plus 4 plus 6, and nope.
It's a dart.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
Not good enough, but you can feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
It wasn't a complete whiff.
Yuanji,
Could have been way worse.
Yep, and now Yuanji will draw 3 cards, and has our Rain Racers active, so we'll likely kill William with the first arrow.
Yeah, with the rain, you have to imagine it's a nice, easy fire. No cards here. And that is the GG. So this is the power of Kano, though, right?
It's just
so
got
even
this
though
nuclear option, right?
Yeah, even though William loses this match, I just want to highlight how kind of silly this really is. Without your combo pieces off of a Hail Mary Tome, you still did 29.
Yeah, but if he hits a blue anywhere there or just some dead card, he just dies, right? He does nothing. Yuanji ends the game at like plus 30 life, and he just played the whole game passing, right? Like we went pretty close to like best case scenario. We were off by 1 card. So yeah, it just, I don't know. Kano does have this like high variance nuclear option. You can just win games out of nowhere for sure. But we got pretty lucky to get to that point, to be honest, like very lucky. And we had the E-Pot on board from turn 0.
Yeah, I mean, that absolutely helped for sure. I don't know. I just find a lot of entertainment value in the casino Kano.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's just keep rolling it, right?
I really enjoy it when a Kano is playing towards a sort of very clear line of a combo. And then via the board state or via some pressure that was applied to them, needs to implement some sort of variance into that combo in order to win. Because I think Kano is a deck where you're very much rewarded for knowing your outs and playing to them.
I think that's why I enjoy it. I appreciate it. It's one thing to just like, oops, I win variance. I think I wasn't articulating it very well for those at home. What I enjoy most is the adaptation, right? Understanding, okay, I don't have what I need, but if I flip the right card off of the top of the deck, then that opens up a new out. Or maybe you flip something you weren't expecting, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that changes things. I have a new route, right? Like that adaptation, I think, is what really highlights a good player, a skilled player, because I think that in card games, it's very easy to do the linear thing. It's when you adapt to new situations, new outcomes, that you really highlight, like, okay, I'm actually an above average or, one of the best players in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And you see how powerful something like a red Aether Flare is. It's an interesting card to put into the Kano deck. You want to pair it with something like Snapback so it does have at least some sort of main phase efficacy. Because, I mean, that card is kind of bad. It's really bad if you play it by itself. If you main phase, play Crucible and then play Aether Flare, which is often what you're doing as Kano. You're blocking with 2 cards, you're playing 2 cards. It's like the worst card ever. But when you hit it off the top, it's nuts. One thing that's interesting though is that the blue is also busted. Like hitting blue Aether Flare off the top in the middle of your Aether Wildfire combo leads to some of the most disgusting just damage numbers you've ever seen. And we saw it there. I mean, that Blazing Ether, if he hit it off the top, would have put it would have done a lot of damage.
I was going to say, it would have been lethal, right? I mean, there was no way that Yanji can survive that if they can roll at the end that Blazing. So I do want to say congratulations to Yanji, moving on to the top 4. Still played a wonderful game on Lexi. Yes, it was very short. It didn't look like that impressive, but he understood the assignment. He saw the cloak, he saw the E-pot, and said, hey, all gas, no brakes. Let's get the pressure on. William started doing some weird stuff with, the hand and not giving away information, and Yanji was undeterred, just said, okay, well, I don't have to worry about a combo if they're dead. So
Yeah.
I do want to say, congratulations, very well navigated to Yanji.
No, I mean, Yanji played that correctly. You saw Yanji not block prior to drawing to the 3 of a kind because he knew that blocking did nothing, right? He's done the math. He's like, if you hit Blazing Ether, I'm dead. But if you don't hit Blazing Ether, you've literally done nothing this game, and I will draw 3 cards and kill you with the first card because I have Rain Razors. So, I mean, Yanji clearly understands how that deck works. You saw him do the math, and, I mean, there's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason why I won the game. I would have loved to hear from William about why he chose to pass, how much the Frostlock affected him. So the Frostlock in the past, I expected, but obviously the higher EV play there is to block the Frostlock initially and just dump your 4-card hand so you don't have to play IP penalty for the first 2 turns, which is what happened, and a severe IP penalty at that. But the turn 2 pass is really what I would like to hear about because you will get some good cards in your hand. I saw the Mind Warp. You can find the lesson, but it's usually better to play that out, tax the opponent player's hand, deal some damage, and then you'll find another card. Because outside of Aether Wildfire, a lot of the cards in Kano are pretty replaceable, with Lessons in Lava just finding the Blazing anyway. The 2 cards for the combo are Aether Wildfire and Blazing Ether, and then literally whatever you put in the middle of it basically doesn't matter. It could be the whole idea of the combo is that card can be a 1-power blue, which is it's the worst card in your deck, right? It's the worst power, and you kill from 32 with the worst card in your deck in the middle of the combo.
Whenever you're playing a combo deck, the more pieces of redundancy that you can find, the more consistent you become, right? So there's obviously key cards you have to hunt for, but you're right. When you're building the traditional Kano, there is that kind of like X variable where it's literally insert anything, and I'm honestly kind of scared that at some point Kano's going to get a few more tools, and cards like Lesson or Blazing could be a little bit more redundant, right? Maybe it's not the same power level, but even if it allows them to get big chunks of damage more consistently, that's what I'm always keeping my eye on, because that's when I think that deck becomes very scary.
So yeah, I think that deck is scary right now. It's just it's a very meta dependent deck. I think that Kano, William didn't want to play against the Lexi. William wanted to play against the Ultims. He wanted to deck stack, and it's just a way easier matchup. And I think that applies to Kano sort of across the board. You have good matchups, and you have matchups that it's hard to call them bad. I think they're bad in the sense of Kano that they're often flips, like these hyper-aggressive, even somewhat disruptive matchups. You literally just need the best cards in your deck at the top. If you don't have them, you will die every single time. You can't outplay that scenario. You can't. Sometimes you will just not have the cards. So yeah, Kano. Yeah, you're right though. Kano getting another tutor or something it'd be pretty nuts. But yeah, it was great. It was a great match. I think that we saw Kano play towards the outs, and we saw how powerful that deck can be when it finds something like the Aether Flare off the top after you played a Wildfire previously. I really would have loved to see the Mind Warp though, because I know William was talking about Mind Warp and how much he liked that card this week.
I mean, obviously he liked it because he brought the mat out and everything.
Yeah, no,
he's like,
I have the mat and I have to play it. Yeah, and then I mentioned this during the broadcast as well, but I just want to mention for people that maybe tuned in later, William was playing 1 Tome of Fandal and not the entire 3. So a bit atypical for a Kano deck, especially like a combo-oriented deck, as well as he played 1 Deja Vu Potion, which is, I love Deja Vu Potion. It's so good.
So one last thing that I want to ask, right, because you said that Kano's a very meta-dependent deck, and I agree, and I actually think that this current meta has been one of the better ones for him because the amount of AB has been maybe the lowest it's been in a long time as far as like meta decks go. But with Oldhim Living Legend in the future, is it more pro Kano or less Kano? Because I think we're going to see a lot of people at least kind of like knee-jerk overreact to aggro, which is like less Kano favorable. But Like long term, do you think that Kano is going to benefit from like an old him less meta, or do you think that that actually ruins Kano in some fashion?
So it's interesting because the community would be extremely split, and they would actually believe completely different things. So some people look at Kano right now, and they think that Kano's worst matchup is Oldhim because Oasis Respite destroys the combo. But Oldhim is one of the easier matchups, depending how it's built, because if Oldhim gives you time, you just stack, and you can stack double Wildfire, and you get through Oasis Respite, period. Oasis Respite is a silver bullet card, but you can play around it. The actual hardest matchups for Kano where you really can't do anything, there isn't a level of variance, which I know some people look at Kano and they think it's a variance-based deck, but it's really not. I think it's a very low variance deck, but in aggressive matchups and with the extremely aggressive decks that exist in some of these Flesh and Blood metas, being Fi, being this new Lexi deck, being maybe Briar of old, you just need the best cards at the top, and that's not a good situation for Kano. That's not when you want to be playing him. So let's move to the old him-less world. I think it's worse. I think it's significantly worse because old him was also contracting the meta a bit. It made people make a lot of deck building decisions, side cards out, maybe go lower on AB, maybe not add something like Spell Void. Like, it added a lot of tension in the meta. When old him leaves, I think that aggressive decks become a bit better. And yeah, it's a tough situation for Kano. That being said, you never know, right? If you look at something like a Pro Tour or Worlds, like a predictable meta, and even if it's aggro-oriented, if there are multiple other archetypes represented in that potential metagame, people will cut Arcane Barrier. It's the first thing you cut, and it's the correct thing to cut, because at these tournaments, there's usually less than 10 Kanos.
Absolutely. I think that, for me, the real X factor, as far as like whether or not Kano is viable in the future, actually hinges on how playable Vinset is. So when we get Dusk Till Dawn, I think that part of the reason AB has been coming out more and more in the current meta is because we've also saw far less Runeblade action, right? Like, Briar used to be very popular, and you would run at least AB2 sometimes for Thorn. Viserai had been popular in the past. There's a number of reasons that you would pack it, and those reasons have slowly declined. But if we get, like, you know, the rise of Runeblade of old, I know it's not going to be Chain, obviously, but if Vinset makes it more popular, Viserai gets some more tools because of Runeblade cards coming, I also think that could hurt Kano as well, because people will start packing some of those tools that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's so Arcane Barrier is one thing, and it's not so bad for Kano because Kano inherently taxes the opponent's hand by playing spells on their own turn and then comboing on the opponent's turn. The opponent needs to also play out cards, because if you don't present any damage, Kano will stack the deck and combo you. So it's sort of neither here nor there. Like, you can't really do much, and a lot of times if these aggro decks, if they have heavy red, like a lot of reds in the deck, even if they have Arcane Barrier, they just can't pay for it, period. But Spell Void exists on the board, and it can be cracked at any time. And something like Spell Void 2 is just minus 10 damage flat against Kamo. Because if you Spell Void an Aether Wildfire, it's just minus 10. So it takes your kill target from 22, and this is like your perfect scenario, from 32 down to 22, and that's a huge difference when you're playing cards like Voltic Bolt for 5 or 6.
Right, and that's why I was mentioning the Runeblade thing, is because I think we always think of the Rune Chance, and it's like, oh, AB1, you pay for it whenever, but until Thorn Living Legends out, there are reasons, and there have been metas in the past where running a Spell Void 2 just to cancel out a key Thorn has been potentially viable, and I think that those things are what kind of keep Kano in check as well. But with that in mind, that was it for the first round of the top 8. When we come back, we're going to be covering the semifinals. Again, don't go anywhere. We've got the Realm Brawl here in Pittsburgh, brought to you by the Realm and Green Tree, when we return. my podcast co-host Logan than I have in my entire time knowing you. And all that tells me is that subconsciously I'm winning. I am slowly turning you two into me, and it fills me with such joy.
This is the first. So this is one of the Majestics I opened, which was Gore Belching, which is probably a garbage card. But I have never opened a Gore Belching. So
I think that card has a lot of potential.
Sure.
For the future as we wait to see what Vin's set is going to do. Obviously, Blood Debt, playing cards from the Banish Zone, those things are kind of inherently built into Shadow Runeblades in the past. Gore Belching, again, doesn't seem very good, but the fact that it banishes a card and it is a 0 for 7 does mean that there's a lot of potential, I think.
Did you hear about that new Vice President card? The one with acid reflux. It's Al Gore Belching.
I did not hear about that.
No, you didn't know that?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, you wouldn't. I can understand if you didn't know about it because frankly it's an inconvenient truth, but it's all good.
Hey, fun unrelated fact.
Sure.
I've met Al Gore.
Really?
When I was in high school, Al Gore visited our school, and I was in math class. I was a bit of a nerd, so I'd already done all of my work for the day. Mm-hmm. And so me and my group of friends, we were playing euchre, which is a card game very often played in Michigan, if you're not from the area.
Yeah, if you're 87 years old, yes.
Yeah, or if you're 87, sure. We were playing euchre, and so Al Gore comes over, and I asked him if he wanted to play euchre with me. And he literally deadpan stared me, like trying to process what I said. I don't think he'd ever even heard of euchre. He just stared at me and went,
"What is this new drug?"
No thanks. And then walked away. And that was my entire conversation with the, at the time, Vice President of the United States.
Wow, I love that. You have a chance to ask the second most powerful man in the free world.
Yeah, free world.
And what do you want to ask him?
Hey, you want to play euchre?
You want to play some euchre?
No
Thank you.
Thanks.
You know,
and
that
then just walks away.
That reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where Homer brings Apu to like the head of the Quickie Mart, which is like this. He's like this big guru at the top of a mountain, and the guy's like, "You have 3 questions," and Homer's like, "Are you really the head of the Quickie Mart?" And he's like, "Yes."
Yes.
Really? Yes. Really? Yes. That is all. You have asked your 3 questions. You want to play euchre?
Yeah, pretty much. That was it. So.
So no second cold foil yet.
No, not yet. We're getting near the bottom here, but we did open one, so we will have this amazing giveaway where you'll get a cold foil. I do think that we should send some signed tokens.
Yeah,
as
we
well.
can send. Or
I'll set this one aside for me.
Do you want it to be an Uzuri? I wonder
well,
if is there a
I'm
double-sided Riptide? Maybe I'll send a double-sided Riptide.
Oh yeah,
to
I guess
somebody.
I could do like a double-sided Uzuri.
If
right
those
now,
exist.
this one has Arachne on the other side, but
I think that they all the adults Riptides seem to have ponders on the back.
I mean that is
Maybe.
ponderous.
I am going to ponder replay. Oh, this one's not a bad one.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Arachne.
that's what I had. But
it's the same. Maybe they're all the same. Yeah, like the baby Riptides have baby Azalea on the back.
I think it was one of those things where all the young heroes had Flipside young heroes of the class, so that when you're doing tokens for limited events, it's very easy.
All the adult ones have the ponder on the back. There we go. See?
Yeah.
Smarter people than us. Smarter people than us. The other question is, friends, does it have to be do you guys want a hero token, or do you guys want like a card from the set? Maybe we just want to send a card from the set.
Well, I mean, if we want to do like a card, I'm pretty frail, as evident by my arm that is still healing. It's getting better every day, but basically non-functional. And then this, I think, is great for you because it looks just like you.
Thank you.
The blood rot pops.
Wow, you are the best. I just busted a pretty solid card too.
Yeah,
It's probably the worst
Speaking of
the codexes.
of
I got
blood
a
rot-
foil codex of blood rot, but I'll take it. Loving it. All right. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. This box is pretty good. What were your Majestics? Oh, you got a bunch.
These were the Majestics that I opened.
Okay, they weren't the great. I got a Dishonor, a Gore Belching, and a foil Codex of Blood Rot. But, shabang bang, little Codex of Inertia Marvel, which was great. But whoa. No, don't show it yet.
I know. I'm just saying. And the cold foil.
All right, so we're going to open the guesses now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all flesh and blood appropriate ages. We are now taking guesses. What is the cold foil? If you guess the cold foil correctly, we will send you the cold foil, we will send you the playmat, and we will send you the sleeves. So, and if you are correct, take a screenshot of what you say in the chat and send it to orders.therealm@gmail.com. So, has anyone guessed it yet? What do we got here?
And we hit it.
We got it. Antheris. Seeker's Hood. It wasn't exactly the best, but you hit it spot on. It is Seeker's Hood. If we can just get that focus, it's hard.
The focus is set to R, so you gotta put it.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's behind us. So
See, now you're
Seeker's
hitting
Hood.
it there. Hey.
There we go. Seeker's Hood. It is Antheris. If you can send an email with your coordinates, where do we send the prizes? To orders. What is it? Orders.therealm@gmail.com. I think our producer is going to just send you a message anyways, just to remind you. But congratulations. We'll send you that. And we're going to – do we want to sign some stupid cards for them?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'll sign a Riptide.
Yeah,
you sign a Nuzuri. Brendan's going to sign what do you want to sign? Get the hell out of here. No. Not happening. You can sign the Benji. You look a little bit like a Benji. Nothing.
What he said was, I don't know if you could hear it because we have the headsets, but Brendan, our good friend, was over here. What he said was, the fans are not worth it to me. I refuse to sign.
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard. I heard that he was uncooperative, quite frankly, a little rude. No, I'm just kidding. I won't slander him on air.
Rude boy. Rude boy. All right, so comments go.
You really got the Rihanna on the brain this morning.
Kinda.
you have made 2 references to Riri so far.
I did. I'm not necessarily like a huge fan of her music or anything.
No, dude, it's fine. You can get under this umbrella.
This is where I wish we had like the mute button, because I would just be popping off on 4-letter words right now.
Yeah, and it's so funny to me because like he does it twice and it's fine, and then I mention it and do it one time. I've literally done it half as often as him, and he's already angry.
All right, so
are you sure you're not American?
I am absolutely not. Holy Moses. Are you kidding me? Coming down here as frequent as I do, it's like I have a season pass to the zoo. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, congratulations to Antheris. If you can, don't forget to please send an email to orders.therealm@gmail.com with your address and all that stuff. Just say, hey, I won the Seeker's Hood cold foil, the mat, and whatever, and the Realm's going to have that shipped out to you in short order. So thank you so much for playing. We've got the semifinals for the Realm Brawl here. Featuring the wonderful people from Green Tree Sports. Mm-hmm. What else we got? Coffee.
Well, I mean, we know that it's going to be Yonji Lee. He advanced against the Kano, won that match. I did get a chance to actually talk to William after the fact because I wanted to get his take on, why he was blocking the way he was, what he was trying to go for. I got some more insight to how he was playing that. And so one of the interesting things that he said is that right out of the gate, because he had the wildfire for Arsenal and he had the energy potion, he actually said that he had another wildfire. And so he was under the assumption that, like, hey, if I can just find 3 blues, I can literally kill him from 40. And he said that he tunnel visioned on it. And then after the fact, he even recognized exactly what Brendan highlighted during the commentary of the match. He said, I should have chipped. I would have been in a much better position. I saw the line to 40, and then I just tunnel visioned, and I couldn't get my brain off of that. And then by the time I realized it was the wrong path, it was already too late. So, heads up to William. It was still a fantastic attempt. Still made top 8 on Kano. Wonderfully done. But, yes, we know that we're going to have a Lexi in the top 4. Yonji has moved on. We're still waiting on the results of some of the other ones. We know the winner of Isaac and Brody will for sure be in Oldham, because that's a mirror.
And just to answer your question, Mink Starella, how many Riptides were at the event. There were 4, and I don't believe any made the top 8, but some came close.
Yeah, and we got to see one on stream. Our good friend Tommy Fresh.
Thomas Von Freshness.
Tommy Hendricks was on the broadcast yesterday piloting Riptide. If you're a big Riptide fan, I do not suggest you watch that because, unfortunately, it did not go well. It was a very bad matchup, mind you. You ran into a very skilled Oldham player who knew how to navigate it, but it was still great to see Riptide on the broadcast nonetheless.
Sure. All right, friends, we will be back in short order, and we're going to bring you the semifinals, so don't go too far here. It's the Realm Brawl, brought to you by Green Tree Sports. Don't go too far. That's it. That's all. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much. About the fact that it's a Twitter contest, but hey, you just were part of the Twitch contest, so we're trying to diversify the portfolio.
Yeah, I don't want to force people to go to Twitter any more than the next guy, but since you're there, you should also follow Flake, follow myself, follow Brendan. Just be a part of the Flesh and Blood community. Listen, Twitter can be a bit rough, but the Flesh and Blood community on there is actually spectacular. We are a wonderful group. I love everybody there. Speaking of people I love the competitors. So let's dive into our first semifinals game here, and we are going to see a barn burner between these two players. We have a Lexi and an Oldham. This is, in my opinion, the story of the meta, right? Like, these are kind of considered the top 2 decks at the moment when you look at the whole picture, right? Obviously, it's a Pro Tour. We also saw Dromai do well. Certainly, other heroes are viable. We see Uzuri pop up. But I think right now, if you were to ask most players, the story, the real crux of the meta is what do you do with Lexi and what do you do with Oldham?
All right, so we also this is where the top 8 kind of affects you and I because we just got a message from the producer saying, hey, you got to keep it down. It's a top 8. It's a new day. Not many people are here today. There's going to be also the Battle Hardened that people are going to be playing shortly, if it hasn't already started. However, I have already 1 judge warning under my belt for loudness. But we're going to definitely keep it down here because we don't want to give away too much information. As the producer not only told us to keep it down, but he also closed the door on us. We're out on an island, but we're starting the game here as it is William Bodo presenting in Command and Conquer.
Those have not quite yet been updated. Those will be live. That William Bodo versus Yonjili were the previous names.
Oh.
So if you're watching at home, sorry, that will be updated shortly. I do know that Yonjili is, however, our Lexi player, so that part is correct. The Oldham, I believe, is Isaac, but I would have to get confirmation.
That might be. So the previous quarterfinal matchup was actually Isaac versus... Oh, you know how I know this is Isaac? Isaac stacks his equipment 2x2.
Well, it was a combination of that and I saw him earlier, and so I know what he was wearing, said good morning, et cetera. So I can kind of tell from there. But yes, this looks like a classic Isaac setup. You
can tell just by the fact that he's got sleeves on that you're like, hey, I know that guy. That's Sleeves McGee.
Listen, it's not just that he had sleeves. Like, I saw the shirt he's wearing, man. Give me some credit.
Well, how you can't see it here?
You can when he puts it forward. You can see right there.
Yeah, gray. Wow,
yeah,
what a unique color that nobody ever wears.
Actually, you know what? You're right. This is Brody. I got it wrong.
It's not Brody because I don't see a sandwich on the table.
There's no ham sandwich. You know what I do see, though? Cards. And one of them was a Sigil of Solace, which is why we are up to the amazing 4340 health total, which has kind of been the story of Oldham. Even though these have been more aggressive Oldhams this weekend, I continue to see them above 40 health. I think we're going to be in...
Oh, so somebody was wrong about Yanji Lee. It's all good.
Oh, interesting. So this, I think, is just the name placed in the wrong spot.
It's all good. Look, long story short, we've got Isaac Crute on the left-hand side playing Oldham. The 2x2 stack of the equipment is a dead giveaway. And you're going to also know because Isaac is one of the more meticulous type of players. He is somebody who, frankly, Oh, is it Michael on the other side?
Yeah, it's got to be Michael on the other side here. If Michael is this.
No, that's not Michael.
All right, so
We'll figure it out.
Production is throwing us curveballs. I apologize at home. I know we're professionals and we should have this, but I'm like 90% certain, and I know they're updating it now that it's Isaac on the left. Yes, because of the sleeves flake. The right cannot, however, be Michael because Michael has been piloting Oldhim. So unless they somehow let him switch for the top 8, there's no way he's on Lexi. So
all right. Well, we've got a big turn.
Yeah, we just got the oops from production there.
No worries.
We'll get this updated.
Long story short, though, is that it is Isaac Crude at 43 with the Sigil of Solace, putting himself a little above rate, as it were. That's the sort of a wonderful. Oh, he's going down too.
Yeah, he's going down. We've got a rain raisins, as you like to call it, into the 3 oak because you love your plant-based references. You're not really a vegan, but you do love the plant-based references.
Yeah, wait till no peach cobblers is the foot piece right here. Or my favorite thing was one of the people at the Green Tree booth referred to leg pieces as pants, and I was like, I really like that.
You've not heard.
I've never heard it referred to as pants. Like, it's like, what pants are you wearing? Well, I'm wearing Snapdragons. I'm wearing perch grapplers or whatever.
It's pants, shirt, hat, and either gloves or I've heard bracelet. If people like really.
No,
I want a good watch for your hands, right? Like I feel like a mechanologist needs like a good Rolex version of like Flesh and Blood.
The Trolex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of trolling, this is another arrow coming in for 7. This is a very explosive turn, exactly what you want to get early because you need that tempo on your side.
Now, these turns against an Oldhim, these are the turns that you get the most heavy lifting done because of the defensive capabilities. You see a staunch response in the hand, a bunch of 3 blocks, obviously. That's what Oldhim does best. But the Rain Razor's 3-of-a-kind turns are the turns where you're going to get so much work done. These are the turns where you need to convert and actually punch through. So we're starting with a double Bolton shot turn. The Rain Razors into the 3-oak went to the Bolton shot. So it's going to be difficult to actually get this done. The question is how many arrows can you fire? We know it's going to be minimum 3, but do you think that he actually extends this perhaps? Because I think he's only used the bow once. So if the bow is only activated once, is this a turn where you load up another bow for go again? Do you have the resources? You got the cards in hand. So this is going to be a pretty painful turn. The question here is Isaac going to hold on to the staunch response for something a little more menacing?
Yeah, I think that you hold on to it because this was the first time that the bow was used, and it was for go again. Now we see the second activation, and while there was the arrow that was already showing, you didn't know what was in the hand, so this is now a load and a fire on the endless arrow, but I think the reason that you hold on to the staunch is you're worried about a relevant on-hit. You don't want to, for example, use the staunch here and then give up something akin to like an infecting shot where you're now also taking the blood rot on top, or in this case with endless, if you can block this out, then they don't get it back in hand. So I think this is the right call. If you know that you're going to be blocking through the end anyway because of the 3-of-a-kind, use your big block for the thing with a relevant on-hit.
Basically, spot on. And nothing has as significant an on-hit like Endless Arrow because it's essentially, a recursive effect. You pick up the arrow, and in top 8s with no time limits, Fatigue is certainly an option that Oldhim might lean on, and it looks like Lexi's running the Quiver of Rustling Leaves. So you don't have the Quiver of Abyssal Depths to go ahead and recover some of those arrows. So in this case, it looks like a double block, 2 resources floating. We know there's a staunch response at hand. The question is, what is the follow-up?
Yeah, so the other arrow was already in the arsenal here, and so I think that right now the 2 block is saying, okay, we're waiting to see whether or not they're going to activate snaps here. Because the tunic is active, right? So even though there's no resources floating, this is something where you could still extend the turn, and because you have the Rain Razors active, it's a great opportunity. Yeah, you don't want to waste it early, but you're getting value. And so I think this is, again, a heads-up recognition by Isaac that this was an option, and yeah, we're going to see
a big 7 spot, and Isaac is just going to snap down that staunch response. And what I like here is Cody just decided to say, I'm going to keep.
And there's the snaps. This is exactly what I think Isaac was expecting, right? So there's the snaps into the final because you want to get maximum value off of. So just if you're watching at home, this Rain Razors here was a +10 this turn.
Yeah, it's pretty good rate. Cost 0.
Cost 0, plus 10.
And it's not just that look, like the thing about this is that people are going to say it's 10 for 0 and like that's crazy. But like look what it took to do that. It took the 3-of-a-kind turn. It took the breaking of the Snapdragons. You broke the rustling leaves as well. So there's definitely some moving parts. But what people also need to understand about why it's just so much more than plus 10 is that you're putting these on-hit arrows into a further, out of reach range to easily block. So you're getting better. You're getting better reliability of the on hits, and that is what Cody Williams wanted to do, and that's why he broke the snappies to hit the heater on the other one. But he's following this up with
another 3-of-a-kind. This is such an outstanding back-to-back set of turns for Cody, and the other thing to highlight here, Isaac has no card in Arsenal, so no ability to Crown of Seeds here. You're just going with whatever 4 you have, and that's because the turn previous went so wide that Isaac had to commit every resource he had just to survive that. So this is a brutal follow-up and a very timely, explosive turn potentially from Cody here. As you were saying, though, the Rain Razors in this previous turn was so important because it was spread across 5 attacks, right? Breakpoints are such an important concept in Flesh and Blood. If you're new to the game or you're just tuning in, you're not really familiar with what we're talking about, this is the quick hitter, right? Most cards block for 3. Anytime you can go over 3, it becomes awkward because then they either have to commit a second card or take damage. So the Rain Razors spread across 5 cards as opposed to a single plus 10 means that 5 cards are now awkward. So when Flake was mentioning that, your return on investment, you might think, okay, well, 10 is 10 is 10 is 10. Like, it's always going to be worth 10, but it's not. In Flesh and Blood, the breakpoints are such an important piece. And if you're, again, new to the game and you want to learn how to get better, I highly recommend just like looking into some of the great content creators that exist in this community, because you can find a lot of resources that talk about breakpoints and their importance.
So Favorcina is going to meet the Searing Shot halfway, and we're going to follow this up with a Remorseless, another card that is not as effective against Oldhim in the sense of many actions taxing your life total, but this does ice out some of the defense reactions, which can be very important. However, no Arsenal, no nothing, no nonsense here. And again, Isaac Crute is just double-checking the text on the card to make sure that he's got a way out here. But it looks like a defensive posture so far. And if you're thinking, well, is it really a defensive posture if he's down to 27? It is, and the reason it is because cards like Oasis Respite, cards like Fate for Seed, etc., would probably not be in this matchup if there was a time limit, because if you're icing out a deck like Lexi, you might have to go the distance. It might take you too long, and it's not a reliable strategy to get it done under 50 minutes. But in the top 8 with no time limit, you can stack your deck with all the D-Reacts, the Oasis Respites, and all that other stuff to just sort of ice out these cards, which he's pretty much done. However, despite the defensive posture, he has still taken a significant amount of heat here, as he's taken 20 damage over a few turns. And keep in mind, the Sigil of Solace bringing him up to 43. He's down to 23. So Cody Williams has burned through 2 3-of-a-kinds and a Rain Razors and has put in 20 damage. And if you're sort of calculating that, I mean, you're going to need to combine another 3-Oak into another Rain Razors and hope that that can get you across the finish line.
Or, potentially get some additional gas from Remembrance or some other tools. But yes, it is a very tough uphill battle. I know right now it's easy to look at the health totals and say, wow, Cody's got this locked down, right? And speaking of 3-of-a-kind and Rain Razors, there they are again, Flake. 3-of-a-kind means 3 of a row, or 3 in a row in terms of turns, so we're going to see the pressure continue. What I was about to say, though, is that even though the health totals have such a big disparity, all I keep thinking about is the game yesterday, where granted it was a Riptide, a different Ranger, but we saw Oldhim just kind of methodically block any and all turns that didn't involve those key cards, right? 3-of-a-kind and Rain Razors is so important to this matchup, so you need as much value out of them as you possibly can get. But yeah, right now, if we're doing the math, well, we're doing it together, because this is the third 3-of-a-kind, 3 right in a row, turn after turn after turn, second Rain Razors, but again, pairing them together is where you want to be. That's the most value that you can get.
Opening up the turn with Rain Razors usually is the lead into a 3 of a kind turn. And the question is, did Cody Williams find the right sort of recipe of arrows in order to penetrate the staunch defenses of Oldhim? And with the full kit there, you still have the I believe that's the Iron Hide legs as well as the Crater Fist, so you've got some blocking ability there if necessary. But the work's got to be done in opening up with a 7-point Remorseless, and that is going to have go again. We're going to go ahead and just take out that 3 of a kind, just declutter. The Rain Razors stay there, just as a reminder saying, hey, all of my arrows are kind of turbocharged now. And again, Isaac Crute now is thinking, all right, this is the third 3 of a kind and the second Rain Razors. If I can get out of this turn by taking, 8 or less damage, I think I'm in a good spot here because the rest is going to hurt, but I have the tools to circumvent a lot of this major surge in damage. And this is the motor that Lexi's going to lean on to actually convert on damage against something as resilient as Oldhim.
So Voltaire's been activated one time. You could activate it again potentially for the arrow that's already there for go again or something. So just kind of thinking through the turn, right? It's likely this Remorseless and probably 2 more arrows total. If it's, 6 or 7 a pop, then Isaac really just needs to find a way to kind of block out close to 20 or as much of 20 as he can. The Sink Below is already a great start. That's an above rate block, a 0 for 4. But again, kind of looking at the tools that you had highlighted, we still have Crater Fist. We also have Shield, the legs that you mentioned. So when you're pitching, say, a blue, you can activate that crown, that shield, and the legs, all for the 1 blue pitch, which then nets you more above rate blocks, but also you can kind of spread them out. And we're going to see that crown activated now. You also are then able to block with the card that you draw from the crown. So there are a lot of options here for Isaac to survive what's likely a very explosive turn. We're going to take 2 here from this Remorseless because, again, Sink Below plus the crown soaks 5 of it. But I think Isaac will be able to survive this and be able to still be well above 10 health, which is where you want to be. I think we'll probably see him in the 15-ish range when all is said and done.
Here's a Pathing Helix with the Go Again effect as well. I believe it's a Pathing Helix. It's going to get a nice, robust block here, double block as well as a hit from the shield. And, yeah, I think it came in for the plus run. He's just keeping that infecting shot in the arsenal as well.
Wow,
so,
and it ended there. So
2-arrow turn, I believe.
Yeah, the 3 of a kind was only a 2-arrow turn, and I thought he was going to be around the 15, but because of that stop, he's still above 20 and didn't even have to pop his legs. This is actually a really big win for Isaac in my book.
Massive. I said if he took under 8 damage on a Rain Razor's 3 of a kind turn, he's well ahead here, and he's coming out of that turn knowing that all 3 Oaks are gone and 2 Raisins are already out to pasture, and he's just got nothing necessarily heavy to worry about because Snappies are gone as well. There might be a turn where, the Bracers might be a problem. However, in terms of, cobbling together these massive go-again turns, he's going to need things like Falcon Wings or Bolton shots.
Yep, that's usually the big one.
For the free reloads. So now it's no longer a matter of manufacturing these kinds of big turns. Cody's going to need a little luck to draw these kind of pieces together.
Well, and the other piece of this puzzle is that Lexi, unlike Azalea, does not have good options to sneak damage through in other fashions, right? Azalea can potentially, if you get into this scenario, get the free damage in with a dominate here or there. You can kind of play to your hero power. Lexi, absolutely great, good card pool, but the hero power doesn't really help at this stage, right? Yeah, you could maybe flip a lightning card, give another arrow, go again, go a little bit wider. Donating the ice, Oldhim really doesn't care. He lives in ice. He's the bane of the ice heroes, right? He was born in it, molded by it, et cetera, et cetera. So really, at this point, we've hit the point in the game where Lexi and the hero power are almost kind of a non-factor. And with all 3 of a kinds gone, 2 of the Rain Razors gone, now what do? How do you get over the hump?
Why didn't you do it in the voice? You should do it in the Bane voice.
Because I can't do the Bane voice.
Born in it, molded by it. Not bad.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I mean, probably better than me.
Yeah, maybe. That's most things in life. He's just looking at me with the pure Smucker's face.
I'm just so proud. I'm so proud anytime that
I know.
anytime
And
that you try to do anything witty at all.
I know. And people
It's like when you watch your
no
kid learn to walk.
People have no idea what's coming for you and I either. Like there's going to be a weekly dose of this kind of nonsense around the bend. But ultimately, friends, it's a fate foreseen. This is the second one. And, looking at the list that Isaac presented, seeing cards played like Oasis Respite, Fate Foreseens, usually Sync Belows are almost an auto-include in most decks in terms of defensive capability.
Absolutely.
But once the Fate Foreseens sort of make it in and the Oasis Respites, you know that they're in for the long haul. And we're blocking now with a Thunderquake on just a 2 damage drill shot. But these drill shots are so menacing towards Oldhim. They're probably some of the most dangerous cards in that deck.
I was just going to say, they, despite only 2 damage, are maybe the most must-block card for this matchup, because the last thing you want to do is end up with negative counters on your shield, for example, or allow, against Lexi, there are sometimes in the past additional tech where, you try to use the drill shot to give a minus counter, and then all of a sudden you wipe out, Crown of Seeds with the ice card. So it is something that you cannot let through, right? It's just 2 damage, but you just can't let it through. Meanwhile, first round of offense found on the side of Isaac Crute gets in with a Command and Conquer for 6 damage. No Arsenal to destroy, but don't think that's relevant.
He busted it up. He got a blue drill shot, I think, out of the way, which actually, in all honesty, like I was talking about this yesterday, Command and Conquer against the Lexi is not that scary, because if the Lexi just doesn't care about the arrow in there, she'll take the 6 damage, shrug it off, and then start loading the bow and firing over and over again. So in this case, blowing up that drill shot for Isaac, however, is, like we just spoke about, it's him getting damage plus getting probably one of the more worrisome arrows that could shut off the Rampart of the Ram's Head, which does a lot of heavy lifting in these long-winded matches. Because when you lose the Rampart, it's not just the defense, but it's also losing efficiency of that blue pitch into a Crown of Seeds. Suddenly you're giving up 3 block for 1, and that doesn't feel good. You might get a card back, sure, no problem, but there's the third Fate Foreseen as well. So this Remorseless gets covered up completely. And Cody Williams now, having already exhausted all 3 Three Oaks and 2 Rain Razors, has kind of gone deep into the coffers to find where he can find offense, and it looks like Isaac Crute is just completely happy to just sort of, find offense where it may. When you said, hey, finally some offense from Isaac Crute, that's how this Oldham's going to play it. He's going to say, you come at me. The second that you stumble, I'm going to find a lane, and I'm going to be able to punch through a little.
All right, so this here is a Falcon Wing. It was loaded with the Voltaire, so it gets the +1 from that. Already naturally had to go again. And yeah, I missed the drill shot that came from the Arsenal before. I think it was placed in before they started messing with the health totals. I am trying to think ahead as far as like a path to victory for Cody. I don't, unfortunately, have his list directly in front of me, but I have to wonder how many copies of Remembrance he's running. Throughout this event, we've seen some lists that are running 2 Remembrance. I've seen some that run 1, but then they also run the Quiver of Abyssal Depths. Obviously, that was not the quiver of choice here for Cody, so to me, that's going to be potentially the deciding factor here, is how many Remembrance are you running, how soon can you find it, get those key cards back into your deck, and then find some additional value, because we've hit the point now where Isaac is feeling comfortable enough to start the offense, and a 2-card or a 3-card block, either it's 3-card block swing with Hammer or 2-card swing with something bigger, that'll catch up quick to Cody.
Another Sigil of Solace played on Isaac Crute's side. 22 health now. Busts back up past the halfway point. Staying alive is the name of the game here, as Cody Williams has used up a lot of the resources, but here's a Winter's Bite. It's going to start peeling cards. Don't have a way to just pay for it with your Tunic. However, why would you care too much? Because let's be honest, that floating resource can just be used for your Crown of Seeds.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Oldham is potentially the matchup where the Winter's Bite feels the worst, simply because they were already planning on pitching anyway, and we're kind of seeing the efficiency of that now, because you can pitch to the bite and then, again, Rampart, Crown, etc. Maybe if they were wanting to do some additional things like play a Respite, you start to slow it down, but not the end of the world. Here we're going to see the resource used for the Rampart paired with a Command and Conquer for the block. And then this is an interesting inclusion. I do love that we've branched out from just Frailty. This is a Codex of Inertia being played. So generating some additional offense and a Ponder token for the Lexi, but also that Inertia token for Oldhim will potentially disrupt their ability to utilize the Crown of Seeds. So I do like this kind of way to attack the defensive game plan of the Oldhim player.
Cody floating 2 here, coming in with the Codex of Inertia, and nothing hurts more than a Codex of Inertia to an Oldhim, because the value of that that arsenal is massive, and there's nothing really you can do. It's just the reality of it is it sucks to blow up an arsenal against somebody who wants it there to because of the amount of work it does, what it represents when Oldhim has an arsenal. Much like, you know, when Icelander has her arsenal and when she doesn't, it's a completely different ball game. And against Oldhim, it's not necessarily as detrimental to not have an arsenal, but it just, you feel so much more comfortable. And, you know, you'll see it in play patterns of pros where oftentimes they will opt to arsenal a card rather than send a hammer, let's say. They value the card and arsenal to the pressure in, you know, in the mid game or early game. However, late game, sometimes that hammer, the 4 damage represents a lot more. You know, it gets them to a little bit closer or one step closer to closing it out. But right now, we're loading the bow, and it's going to be a fire of, I believe that is is that a...
I think it's Withering.
Withering shot. Yes, it might be Withering shot, which creates frailty, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so it would make the hammer a little less palatable. I think that's obviously an inclusion that's really meant for like the Lexi mirrors, if you expect a lot of Lexi in the field, like we
shuts down Kodachis
in the meta. Yep, also definitely helps against Kodachis and so forth. So now we see the crown activated. I will say this, you know, as we kind of talk about the importance of activating Crown and how Oldhim players will sometimes prioritize that even over shipping damage with the hammer. The other important thing that I think gets lost sometimes in the conversation about what Crown does for the Oldhim player is it allows you to cycle through your deck faster. And when you're playing a defensive deck, being able to stack for your second cycle, maybe set up some big power turns to catch up, right? Because if you're in a situation like this where you've defended a lot early, there's a bit of a health gap, getting through your deck that much faster is actually a real benefit. And so the Crown game plan helps with that as well. Anytime you can slow that down, you're kind of slowing down their ability to get to the cards they've, you know, pitch stacked to the bottom.
How about you, chat? What do you guys feel? How do you like this matchup and how it plays? You know, Lexi has a lot of conversation surrounding her you know, aggression and her dominance in that sort of genre of play, whereas Oldhim has kind of been there, done that for so long. It has already attained Living Legend. Is this a matchup that you favor towards Oldhim? You know, is Oldhim winning this matchup only in the higher ranks? Is this, you know, if you're an average or above average player, is Lexi, you know, a little bit more reliable in terms of winning this matchup? How do you guys feel in the chat? Let us know. It's always good to hear from you guys. It's always wonderful to have you here. So thanks for joining us. This is the semifinals, the first semifinals of the Realm Brawl with Green Tree Sports here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I love that you said that as if it was Transylvania.
Yes. Also, very important to note here, again, that Usiris likes turtles. And frankly, I don't blame him.
I mean, turtles are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're all right. I mean, especially like of the types, you have like the snapping turtle, you have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, which is, I think, probably...
Painted turtles are cool. Sea turtles are pretty awesome.
The chocolates turtles.
There's not just the snapping turtle. My personal favorite is the alligator snapping turtle, which is massive in size, much like your ego.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's also just as angry as you are.
What? Do I exude angriness?
Anytime you interact with me, yes.
Well, yeah.
In general, no, you're a very jolly, happy person. But for whatever reason, I bring out the worst in you.
Yes.
You know what else is bringing out the worst in people?
Oldhim?
This attack from Cody into Oldhim, because we are seeing some cards revealed here, some blocks thrown out. And we're waiting for the follow-up here from Cody.
Yep, 6 on the stack, and at this point, Isaac Crude is thinking, all right, well, you're kind of running out of options here. Now, the codexes, Codex of Frailty specifically, does recur from the arsenal. I think Cody right now has to put together turns that are going to lean on hitting with your endless arrow. I think that's very important for him because card efficiency and economy is going to be as much a factor in this game as life totals and damage dealt, where Isaac Crute is still at 20. He's gained 6 or 9 life by now. I think he's played 2 or 3 of his Sigils of Solace. He's at 20. He's got defensive capabilities. He still has all of his equipment to block with. So he's feeling good. And you can see Isaac Crute here saying, all right, well, 3 Oaks are gone. The Rain Razors are gone. I've seen a few Codexes. Like, what do I need to worry about?
Yeah, this is him just kind of going, all right, how much longer do I have to endure this? What else can possibly be coming this way? And I think the question is, we've seen the Inertia Codexes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen the Frailties yet. Do you think this is a scenario where they are boarded out entirely because they're not as good in this matchup, or do you think Cody is playing the pile to fight fatigue?
I think that if you're going to be hitting with the Codex, it might be in a situation where if you're hitting with Frailty, you might want to end a combat chain with it where your opponent, like where Isaac might block a significant arrow early. Like if you start with like a red drill shot, right? 4 go again. It takes some of the resources away. It blocks a card.
I answered my own question.
There you go.
As we now see the Codex of Frailty join the fray.
Nobody makes me look stupid like good players. That's just a fact.
Absolutely. If there's one thing I've learned in all of my years doing coverage, I've been doing coverage for a long time now, it's that if you say anything, a player will then immediately contradict you live on a broadcast.
It's the caster's curse. It's what it is. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's there's one card in the deck that he can draw off the top that'll ruin him, and that's usually what it is, right? So sometimes it's best to stay silent, but we can't because that's not what we're here for.
That's literally our job, is to not stay silent.
All right. So a Ponder token, a Frailty token, and a Battering Bolt, a card that kind of was early on in the Lexi lists, kind of maybe took its way out, made its way back in. It's a 6, which for Lexi is important in order to pop dragons.
But this is going to be such an efficient block. Yeah, they're resolving it too quick for you to see, but I was going to say, because the Codex breaks the chain, when that Rampart comes back up, it's actually blocking for 2 if you put more resources into it, right? Because the Rampart, every time that you block with it, you can pay to increase it by 1. If you break the chain, it goes up. So because that Codex was in between the arrows, he actually got a lot of value, which is why it was just the 1 card block in the Ram there to kind of sew that up, and you're still at 20 health.
Which is why, I mean, the Rampart of the Ram's Head is the undisputed MVP against, let's say, Pistol Dash or something along those lines. Because it does represent like 6 defense in a turn cycle. So you're right. That is a trade-off that you would have to make. There's a second Battering Bolt, another 6 attack. So Cody Williams still throwing everything but the kitchen sink at Isaac Crute. And Isaac Crute has like barely dipped below 20. And he has, but he just immediately got back up there. So Isaac Crute still, the Canadian assassin is just, he's silent, but man, is he efficient as he just goes to tournaments and wins. Going to block this out for 6. Looks like a use of the Tunic is going to activate a Art of War.
Looks like an Art of War, yeah. So we really are throwing the entire kitchen sink at Isaac Crute at this point. We've seen three of a kinds. We've seen 3 Codexes, a combination of Inertias, Frailties. We also see another Inertia there on the board waiting in the wings. And now we're seeing Art of War. So Cody Williams is the John Hammond of Ranger players at this point. He is sparing no expense. He is throwing everything in his amusement park.
But how did that work out?
Well, I think at this point, Cody kind of hopes a few people get eaten, and it's the opponents.
But you know what they say about Oldham? He finds a way. So he'll get through this, I believe, as the Art of War is going to go ahead and buff the Battering Bolt up to 7, hitting that break point. Looks like another Sigil of Solace says, cool story, bro. I don't go into 19. I do not drop into the teens until it is absolutely necessary at this moment. And Cody Williams with the first dip into the Art of War, which I wasn't aware was in this list. I didn't get to cast any Cody or see the list that had Art of War. Nonetheless, I'm sure there's a few Art of Wars in here, another Rain Razor, so he might still have the opportunity to sort of amplify the efficiency of these arrows and bust through for damage. The problem is he's still got the majority of the life to overcome here, as Isaac Crute has gained 9 life and is still making do.
And here's another codex. So again, we have the Inertia face up in the arsenal there. This is now the second Frailty. So this is the 4th codex played, the 5th that we've seen from the deck. This kind of tells me that Cody came into this tournament with a game plan of my core deck, my core ensemble of cards is good enough into every other matchup that I think I just need to prepare for Oldhim, because every card that could be part of any sort of explosive turn or combo we've seen in this matchup. This tells me that Cody was kind of trying to be prepared for the swan song of Oldhim. We'll see if it's enough, obviously, and he's struggling to crack Isaac. After that explosive salvo of a couple of turns, things have really slowed down as, less equipment available, less ways to pair things together, like the 3 of a kind and Rain Razors, obviously. We've reached the point in the game where Isaac Crute is really the Leonardo DiCaprio of Oldhim players, because he's just flirting with things in the early 20s as far as health totals go. But I really feel that Cody has perhaps the best game plan of the Lexis in the field to get through it.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
I didn't know what kind of response I was going to get. I saw the look from you, and it could have went either way.
Like, sometimes, like, when I'm casting a FI match, and I mention, I'm like, this guy's playing like Michael Jackson in the 80s. It's just hit after hit after hit. And I thought that one was clever. Yours was pretty good, too, man. I got to give that. Yeah, let's all give love to Leonardo DiCaprio, who never dips below 23 or above 20, or never, So it's like, that's kind of where it goes. Nonetheless, friends, the work is getting done. It's a double codex turn. As you can see, the tokens are stacking up on both sides, and double ponder, so he's going to have his pick of the litter, but one activation of the bow so far, some of the damage coming through. Finally, Isaac Crute is going to have to sort of stop and smell the roses to figure out what is going on, and smelling the roses is kind of what Leonardo DiCaprio did in Titanic.
Among other things, like be king of the world, which is what Isaac Crute wants to do for this tournament. Obviously, he's playing to win here, and we are going to see the crown activated. Some resources floating.
I will say this. Look, Leonardo DiCaprio is probably one of the best actors of our generation. It's not.
So
Daniel Day-Lewis.
I mean, there's a bunch. I do want to highlight. This is actually a really interesting decision, because I was going to say, I think Isaac was considering either pitching to Sendhammer or potentially using Tunic and those 2 floating resources, and then going with the Arsenal. Like, this was actually a really interesting plan. He opted to not Arsenal there, just pitch and save the Tunic counter. But I did want to highlight that's not an easy choice, right? Like, if you are prioritizing the Arsenal, that means you have to give up the Tunic, but you have to wait 3 whole turns. I think Isaac kind of did the mental math and say, okay, I can give up an Arsenal for 1 turn and then get right back to it. So it's less of a time investment. But, yeah, that's fair. The Inertia, the Frailty token was covering the Inertia there, so yes.
Yeah, he had a stack. He basically, it looked like he opened a box of Outsiders. He had all the tokens just kind of stacked up there. But Falcon Wings is going to open the combat chain, one of the best ways for Lexi to start her turn. It's just a free go again, which allows you to then go ahead and maybe create a 3-arrow turn without having to use equipment or any kind of hocus pocus to get it done. Nonetheless, here we go. We're going to Art of War.
Another Art of War.
Well, Cody's getting it done, and this is the important part, because we mentioned that a lot of those power cards, the 3 of a kind, the Rain Razors, etc., were expended. We didn't know that the Art of War was sort of just up his sleeve.
I want to know if he's running the full set. I know sometimes they'll just go with like 2 Art of Wars, but we've seen 2 now. So
hey, if we ask one of the best Lexi players in the world, Nick Bolas, ask him, what do you play? And he said everything that's good, which is 3 Art of Wars, a 6-pack of Codexes, 3 Rain Razors, 3 of a kind, and then just gas. He just says, just go for the face. You just really, you go
I mean,
for
that's
the
what
throat.
we're seeing from Cody, and is trying his absolute best to get through this final wave of defense of Oldhim. But after, again, that initial burst of damage, Isaac has firmly settled in.
So down to 19. Finally, Isaac Crute is doing what he could in order to withstand the early onslaught. Cody Williams has been relentless in terms of offense that Isaac has actually presented. I think it was a 2-pack of Command and Conquerors and a hammer. I think that's all he was able to send all game so far. This is a far cry from the match that I watched in the quarterfinals, which was Isaac Crute versus Brody Spurlock, which was, sending thunderquakes back and forth, and then it's funny because it's like this hellacious storm of thunderquake into spinal into thunderquake into spinal, and then things slow down. You hit the eye of the storm where it's hammer, hammer, hammer.
I was just going to say, as a person who's played a lot of Guardian, granted mine's on Bravo, but I have a fair amount of reps on Oldhim as well. Guardian mirrors are usually a race to 15, and then you play the game.
Yeah.
Because up until then, nobody cares. Most of the time, the on-hits aren't relevant for your matchups. Nobody cares about the spinal in a Guardian mirror. I'm not going to have go again most of the time anyway. So it's literally just, all right, I'll take damage, I'll deal you damage. And then when you get to 15, then you're like, all right, now it matters. And then suddenly the game just slows to a crawl at that point. This was kind of the reverse in that it was a race through all of Cody's offensive firepower, and then it has now since slowed to a crawl. So if you're just joining us, we are in the semifinals of our top 8 for the Realm Brawl here in Pittsburgh. We are watching Isaac Crute on Oldhim take on Cody Williams on Lexi. The first round that was on the broadcast of the top 8 today, we did also see Yanji Leon Lexi get a victory over Kano.
I heard you say Yanji Leon, and I thought that was his middle name.
Yeah. Yanji Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil. That's what. No, Leon. As it was playing. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
All right, so friends, don't let these life totals kind of get you discombobulated. Frankly, as even though Cody Williams has a hefty life lead on Isaac Crute, I would say that honestly, this game's going to turn around very soon, as you could see the hammer start to make an emergence, and Cody Williams just taking it and signing for it as that hammer. It's kind of like I call it like secret agent stealth hammer, because it almost never garners a block. It has this elusive element to it where it just goes through all defenses and it just clips down that life total slow and steady, as Isaac Crute finally gets a turn off of full block. So he gets to swing hammer and get an arsenal here. But there is a premeditated good way to open the turn. He's going to go ahead and load up a Bolton shot. This is going to be, what color is that? It might be a 6 go again. It is a 7 go again. So that is if I'm not mistaken, a blue? No. He loaded up with +1, so it's a +4. So I think it's a yellow, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, it does look like a yellow based on the color strip there. It's a little hard to see on our end through the monitor, but that does look like a yellow to me.
Looking good so far, though. 7 go again's a great way to start it up.
And looks like we're going to get the full block after 2-3 blocks and then a pitch to get the Rampart going. Voltaire activated to follow this up with, I believe, a Helix.
Pathing Helix allows you to kind of put a card in your arsenal if you don't already have one there. But this is just for vanilla right now, as the Endless Arrow, frankly, is what Isaac Crute is most concerned about. It's only coming in for 4 unless there's a little bit of rabbit in the hat on this one, but it doesn't look like that's the case. So with 1 block left on the gauntlet, you can still kind of throw that in front of it if necessary. And here it comes. So Cody's going to present the Endless Arrow for 4, and it just gets sunk.
And it's a sink. Wow, I think that he was hoping that he could get some more resources than just the sink out, because the reality is Endless Arrow is one of your key pieces left in this matchup. Without a real weapon with the bow, Endless Arrow is kind of your best chance, your best case scenario at the end game to avoid fatigue. And we've already seen 1 Endless Arrow go earlier in the matchup, so that's the second. And with so many of your explosive tools already having been used, you have to start thinking about that long-term game plan, right? Do I have enough damage, realistically, to do that 17 without hitting the end of my deck? And I don't know if we're at that point yet where the answer is 100% no, but I do know that we're very quickly approaching it, and so that's something that Cody might have to start thinking. But yeah, I was going to say, you're going to see him start to go through the discard pile, try to figure out exactly what's left. Meanwhile, Isaac is now counting the deck. They've both exactly arrived at the point that I was trying to make, which is, where is the tipping point? What is okay, sound the alarm, every point matters.
I believe I counted about 20 cards left in Cody Williams' deck, which, I mean, if you're firing 2 arrows a turn, you're pitching half. I mean, you got a few turns left in you to actually make it count, unless, you never know what kind of recursive effects he has. But 2 Art of Wars are gone, 2 Rain Razors are gone, the 3 of a kinds are gone, a bunch of codexes are burned.
I think all but 1 codex has been burned.
Endless Arrow, frankly, is...
Yeah, there's only 1 Endless Arrow, assuming you're running all 3. And honestly, if I'm looking at the other side, right, we still have Boots on the side of Oldhim, Tunic in a pinch, Crater Fist still has 1 counter, Rampart never got drill shotted, so that's always a threat. That's not even counting Earth cards for the Oldhim Hero Power. I know I've seen some Autumns pitched in the past, probably setting up for second cycle where you can keep using Earth. This Spinal Crush is also really disruptive as well. It's going to slow down Cody and maybe get some more chip damage in.
I was about to say that this is a turn off for Cody. He's going to load up for like a 6-card turn. And in my mind, I'm like, Isaac Crute now has an opportunity to respond with some of his devastating attacks. And in my mind, I was like, the worst thing that Cody can face right now is a Spinal Crush. And Isaac Crute found it right on time as he bought 3 cards out of the hand here, which is enormous. It's going to be a Bolt and Shot, a Winter's Bite, and a Pathing Helix, I believe, was given to the cause here. That Spinal Crush was soul-crushing for Cody Williams.
That's almost 20% of your remaining deck at that point.
You're looking at
right?
me for math? Like, I think it was 15% of his deck?
Well, I said, yeah, you're between 15 and 20 there at 3 cards, because 4 would have been exactly 20%, so I was like, it's almost 20.
Yeah, between 15 and 20, I think that's the age range that Leo puts on his Tinder account.
I'm an American, so to me, everything is not done in, like, good math. Like, to me, that's like 5 washing machines out of whatever.
Out of a football field? Is that what you... Gotcha. Understood. We're going to follow this up with, I believe this is Disable, another absolute backbreaker for Cody Williams. So, look, Isaac Crute now has just packed them back-to-back, and Isaac Crute needs to respect this. And it's not just a matter of, okay, it's damage, it's damage, it's damage. It's the fact that Cody Williams has to now commit cards that could be used to punch down that life total. He has to commit it just to protect that arsenal.
Yeah, Blue Disable is one of those cards that always ends up in the Guardian lists, and it's so unassuming, but then out of nowhere, it can be huge in scenarios like this. So if you're not familiar, it is a 7 damage attack, but the Crush effect, it attacks an Arsenal card, obviously very big against Ranger, and so that's why you saw the block. You have to respect it. But again, that's 2 more cards gone. We have not seen, again, any Remembrance yet out of Cody, so if he is running them, we have to start considering them. I don't know how many he's potentially running. We know that he was not running Quiver of the Abyssal Depths, and he's already used the Rustling Leaves. So
I would imagine that if you're not running a Quiver of Abyssal Depths, it's because it's not in your list. Because that is the auto snap that you put into this to shore up this matchup. And oftentimes, I've had conversations about just cutting it out of the list entirely. And the reason why is because they're like, you should, as Lexi, be able to beat an average Oldhim player. Like, if you're just going to your Armory or your RTN and you're not facing like the gauntlet of pros, then you should be able to convert on just the cards in deck. You don't need the help of Abyssal Depths.
But this isn't an Armory. This is a Realm event, where we see the likes of Pro Tour winner Michael Feng in the field. We see the likes of Isaac Crute and many other accomplished players. Brody Spurlock, who's also piloting Oldhim here.
Cody Williams himself. I mean, Cody Williams is a top
Cody Williams is great, but I just mean if you're planning for your average Oldhim player, then you should not be attending one of these high-quality Premier Realm events where the best of the best show up.
You should always be attending these high-quality events, and not just for the gameplay, but, man, was that speakeasy party yesterday night pretty damn fun.
Yeah, I mean, there is a reason we're a little bit wacky today.
Yeah, a little bit. And I will say this. You're talking about sort of the metric system and measurements. God bless the bartenders, because they had no clue what an ounce was, because those Jameson shots I was taking were fat doubles and triples the entire night. So every time somebody's like, you do shots? I'm like, yeah, hit me up with some Jamie. I'm always on board. And then they give you this glass. I was like, this is a small at Starbucks. Like, what is this? This is insane. But yeah, we're kind of feeling it this morning. But what gets us really, really energized are 2 of the world's best Flesh and Blood players throwing fists at each other, possibly Titan's fists.
Yeah, and in terms of shots here, we saw Cody Williams playing the Winter's Bite taking a shot at the hand of Isaac Crute, but does not look like offense followed that up. So we're still waiting for the moment where Cody is going to unleash this round of offense. And as you said, likely just trying to set up the best, 6-card hand we can. We have the 2 cards in Arsenal. We have 3 counters on Tunic. We're just trying to hit a turn like this where maybe Isaac just throws Hammer and then passes. So we're going to see, card in Arsenal on the side of Isaac. So Crown active. We, again, have Tunic active on both sides. This is going to be all offense, all defense. Here we go.
All right, go again on the infecting shot. And I am always curious about opening the turn with Rain Razors out of hand. I always like to just hang on to it as a method of sort of like surprise. But
I do appreciate when players do that. However, I think the reason we haven't seen many people do it here is that when you're playing against somebody like Isaac Crute, you're not going to catch them by surprise. You know what I mean? Like, let's just put everything on the table here.
But I mean, yeah, I suppose. But like, it's just kind of like you might catch him off edge. You might catch him, the way that you say it's like.
Might catch him by the razor's edge.
You need to calm down, Chico, okay?
I knew you would appreciate
you
that.
know that one, absolutely.
All right, well, we're trying to get that infection going here. This is the second infecting shot right in a row.
A great card as well. In terms of power levels on arrows, it is probably one of the more above rate. It is a card you have to respect. It just does damage. So oftentimes people, when it comes to cards and on hits, if the on hit is just extra damage, you can typically laugh it off. Things like Searing Shot, for example, Infecting Shot. But in the late game, every point matters, and this is definitely a part of it. So. Okay, so we just got we got a little bit of help here. So I wasn't aware, again, when we're kind of just, when these games go long, as this one is. The Rain Razors was, in fact, in Arsenal. We missed that one, so I appreciate the pickup, as it were. So that's why you open it up that way. Otherwise, if it was in hand, you're catching your opponent and just saying, surprise, mofo.
But I mean, we've seen the Rain Razors come from hand a few times in these as well. And like I said, I think it just comes down to you're not catching these caliber players really by surprise too much. A lot of times it is also played in front of the 3 of a kind, so you can't really play from hand after that resolves anyway.
I've never seen Isaac Crute smile, let alone be surprised. So I'm pretty sure he is just dead set cemented on one emotion, which is deadpan seriousness. So it's paid off.
He is the Canadian Ivan Drogo, as far as I'm concerned. No smiles, all seriousness.
Okay.
If he dies, he dies. I will break him.
I will say this. The one time, or the only times I see Isaac Crute smile is because every RTN, every ProQuest, every armory that I attend that he is there, you can ask David Rude, who...
you get him round 1.
Every time. Every time. And they know it. There was one time, okay, we were there doing a draft, okay? We were doing a draft, and there was 10 of us. So they're like, let's just do a 10-person draft and have some fun.
Ooh.
So we did the 10-person draft, and I get paired against Isaac Crute. And then and I was like, oh, my God. And everyone's like, oh, obviously you get paired against Isaac. And then Dave's like, actually, a little bit of, like, the pairings are wrong. We have to repair them. Everybody got new partners except me. I got Isaac Crute again.
So you know who else is getting Isaac Crute? Cody Williams right now. That was, as I said at the lead-up, all offense versus all defense. At the end of this exchange, we had 3 arrows fired from that Rain Razors, but Isaac also had the Tunic loaded up. He got to use that. He had the Oasis Respite. He was able to block everything out, actually still gain the health from the Respite. Now, he is going to take the 2 from the Blood Rot that he took from that second infecting shot, but ultimately, after Cody Williams spent so much time setting up another big combo turn to only take that amount of damage and still be at 13 health, that was a pretty big win for Isaac. Now, this is where Cody needs to find the follow-up because Isaac, no card in Arsenal, no more Tunic available, equipment mostly used up at this point. You do still technically have the emergency Tunic, the last bit of armor on the Crater Fist, but if there was ever a time for you to kind of get more damage, it's the follow-up after a big turn. We saw that to start the game, right? It was the big 3 of a kind into the second. However, staunch response here, just shutting down the first arrow.
And the next one is no slouch either. This is a 5-point drill shot, which can potentially shut down, your you're ramping to the ram's head. But like you mentioned, here comes the last piece of equipment that is meant to block. It's the Crater Fist. I don't think anyone has ever used the text on Crater Fists. I
have. Excuse you.
Okay.
I have.
I stand excused.
Listen, there are times in the Bravo matchup where you use the text. I don't think you ever do it on Oldhim, but there are rare scenarios where you understand that the possible breakpoints exist with your dominate, and so I actually have done it, and you also run enough blues where it's feasible. But that is the concession now from Cody Williams. I think he's not running Remembrance.
It's a gentleman's concession.
Yeah, it's a gentleman's concession, but I think that's also just very telling, right? He's very clearly not running Remembrance. He's used all of his Rain Razors, all of his 3-of-a-kinds, all of his codexes, the Art of Wars, and so at this point, he knows I've got nothing left in the tank. So he concedes. It's very rare you see somebody ahead in life total, but again, both players very talented and they know the outcome, right? This is like when you have two very high-end chess players and they're staring at a board that's halfway through and you see the concession. It's because they know the outcome, right? So congratulations to Isaac on a game well played.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And you're right, because at the end of the day, if you have nothing to throw, you're just basically just going to be losing to Hammer at that point. And it's the advantage of this particular matchup and why Rangers can't really play those long games is because they do not have a weapon that swings. And that might change down the line. I don't know. But I think every hero needs a weakness, and it depends what you think it might be. Maybe Guardians just don't ever get a foot piece that like really has major significance.
I always joke that Guardians play barefoot.
They basically do. They don't wear pants. They don't wear pants. But GG's exactly to both players. It was a great matchup. Again, these are two of the best in the world, showing you how this matchup can roll. And ultimately, if Ranger never gets a weapon that swings, I think that's fair. I think that might just be their glaring weakness. And that's just the way it goes. And that's where we're at right now, ladies and gentlemen. So, everybody's saying, well, Oldham's on its way out, as we're going to come back to the booth here real quick and just chat a little bit more, not necessarily just about the meta, but about everything else as we're doing a little cleanup of the board. But
I want to chat a little bit more about Isaac Kroot, because with that win, he's going to the finals. But I think that it's important to note, if you are just tuning in today, maybe you missed some of the coverage yesterday or you haven't had a chance to go back and watch it, Isaac was our only player to end the day undefeated yesterday. So he has actually yet to drop a game in this entire event. I know that you always want to be in the finals, but I partially don't envy whoever ends up against him, because that is going to be a big hill to climb. He is on a roll.
He is on a roll. He was always on everybody's short list of basically every calling, every Pro Tour, every Worlds. He was on people's sort of, give me your top 8. Who do you got winning and losing? And he was always a major threat. He may have kind of, just sort of shifted into the shadows in terms of conversation, but that's kind of what he likes. He's never been a player that wants to be in the limelight. He just wants to get the work done. He shows up to all the armories that matter. He shows up to all the ProQuests, all the RTNs. He just gets it done. He is one of the most efficient, meticulous, and absolutely dangerous players in Canada, and that says something, because that is an area, that is a nation that holds players like, Tariq Patel, you've got Aaron Shantz, you've got Matthew Dilks.
I was going to say Dilks is there. I mean, there's so many good players that come from that area, and Isaac is right up there. But as you said, he's not really as vocal as some of the others. That's why I really like the Ivan Drogo comparison. Like, he doesn't need to talk a lot, right? He just does it on the field, or in this case, on the playmat. And he does get the job done. Very often, he's still a wonderful opponent if you've ever had the opportunity to play against him. Very, wry smile as he's getting that victory. But, just on a roll. And we have the second game of the semifinals coming up, where we're going to figure out who is going on to face Isaac.
Yes, scary situation. But, again, we got one more semifinals left to go. We're going to be taking a short break and then bring you the second, the last semifinals before we wrap it all up here in Pittsburgh. Again, this is the Realm.
Yep.
Yeah, wowza.
Icequake, which is going to give that just gorgeous Frostbite token.
That's a Team Poland.
It's Team Poland, right?
Yeah.
I'm Polish. I want some of those.
Are you Polish?
I am.
So am I, dude.
Look at that. Yeah.
Look at us.
Yeah, look at who'd have thought?
It's incredible.
Not me.
Well, because your last name is
O'Byrne.
O'Byrne.
It's Irish and Polish.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
Irish,
Italian.
Polish, and Jewish.
Man, what a
little melange.
quite the melange. A nice little tapestry, if you will.
But you know what this is not a melange. This is just one freaking infecting shot for 5. There's nothing subtle and
Freaking infecting shot.
This is one. This is coming in for 5. It's representing 7. There was a frostbite after the ice quake, and one of the more powerful arrows probably you've ever seen, definitely out of the new set, and is maybe the single arrow that has put Lexi in this place. I mean, Heatseeker was insane, but that was coming out of Dynasty. This arrow, I mean, just the power represented, because a lot of the cards that Lexi is using right now, Lexi has had, but this arrow is just like allowing the damage to kind of go into a whole nother stratosphere.
Yeah, I mean, Dynasty was kind of like going to the movie to see what you like. It's like going to see Top Gun 2, right? Like the trailers were really damn cool. That was what Dynasty was. You got your drill shots, your heat seekers. Wow, like some really cool stuff here. And then bam, Outsiders showed up, and the movie just blew you away. You got your codexes, you got your infecting shots, and all this kind of stuff. So Lexi's certainly the beneficiary of the past 2 sets. Dynasty and Outsider just propelling this hero into the stratosphere. We're gonna match this infecting shot with an Oasis Respite. Now, is it Respite or Respite? I've heard both.
I've absolutely heard both. It's you look for a respite, but you are provided a respite. No, you're provided respite. It's respite.
Is it Respite?
I think so.
I like Googled it. I said like how to pronounce it, and I heard it was like Respite, and I just sort of flew with it. I wanted to make sure that was right. What do you guys think in chat? Is it Respite or Respite? Now, obviously, one of us it can be objectively correct and incorrect at the same time, but there's a Codex of Inertia, I believe.
Yeah, and that last attack was going to be completely blocked by the Crown of Seeds, Prevention, and that Oasis R.
Surprise, surprise.
So this is going to be... Now, Yuanji really likes Codex of Inertia. He thinks it's one of the most powerful cards in the deck, I think for lots of matchups. But here with the Old Tim, it's going to provide that Inertia token, which is going to turn that Crown of Seeds off for the rest of the turn. You know, a lot of those cards that Yuanji puts on from the top of his deck into his arsenal, because of the way he's built his deck, he's going to be able to play, because there'll be maybe a pump. If he has another arrow in his hand, he doesn't necessarily have as many arrows as like these fuse lists or even ice decks that have a lot of arrows because of the way he's built his deck. So his Snapdragon Scalers don't have to be priced into some of these turns. So the Codex of Inertia, one of his favorite cards in the deck, he's just going to go ahead on Michael's side and use the Crown of Seeds on his own turn, knowing that the Inertia is going to stop that arsenal anyway.
Well, that's not a bad thing to land on here. It's a Spinal Crush against a 6-card hand that is Yuanji Lee. A Spinal Crush, the crush effect here being that you don't get go again. So you could load the bow, but it's not the go again effect you're going to want. Again, instant speed is a different story here, but a 9 attack, this is going to demand 2 cards from hand to block this entirely. But still, if Yuanji gives 2 cards to block, he's still playing with a 4-card hand. This is the power of not just Ranger in general, but New Horizons, to give an extra card slot to do some naughty stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in a normal case, or not in a normal case, but most of the time in Lexi's, you have 3 3-of-a-kinds to lean on, so you can block 6 pretty convincingly. There's the discussion now of 3-of-a-kind not necessarily being a draw engine, it's just 3 Carrion Husks. It's 3 6 blocks that you're able to just refill your hand with. But knowing the way Yuanji's built his deck, he's only got 2 of them in there, so this is going to demand 3 cards from him, as it looks like he's just going to go ahead and say, this is going to be a much slower turn. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get rid of a Remorseless, I'm going to get rid of an Endless Arrow, I'm going to get rid of an Ice Quake, because I don't think I can do as much as I want to, even if I take only 3, so I'm going to preserve some life total, just come in with this Frostlock. It's not going to have go again. So Yuanji also showing an ability and a propensity to play towards that longer game plan himself.
And that's the way you got to do it. You got to create as many awkward kind of breakpoints, moments, and such to get through this puzzle that Oldham continuously solves so efficiently here. Again, the Codex of Inertia doing a lot of work here, but again, when you're giving your opponent, for instance, that Spinal Crush. That Spinal Crush wasn't the specific Spinal Crush that was reloaded off of the Codex of Frailty, but that's an additional Spinal Crush now that Yuanji's going to have to respect down the line. And if you're playing another Codex of Frailty, you're going to see it again. And this is just a Choke Slam. I believe it's a Choke Slam Red coming in for 8 Crush effect. If this deals 4 or more, your arrows or your opponent's attack actions will not gain attack over the top of their base attack. Now, this isn't as devastating against Lexi as it is an absolute game changer against heroes like Briar, heroes like Azalea. However, it still does kind of shave a little off of 1 or 2 of the arrows that you might see in this matchup. The worst thing that this will do is bust up a Bolt and Shot.
Yeah, well, unless you have something like Rain Razors, or like we can see in Yuanji's hand right now, if I'm not mistaken, an Artivore. Well, all of a sudden that Artivore,
yeah.
you're turning, yes, it has multiple modes. You can give Go again. He's probably not looking to use it normally to defend with his cards from his arsenal. But again, when you are Yuanji and you give 3 cards on the block on the Spinal Crust, and then all you do is present an unfused Frostlock, Oldhim, it's like he's blocking. It seems like he's playing this long game, but if you give him an opening, if you just throw an arrow that doesn't have any on-hit effect, he suddenly comes at you with a big red attack that actually has a relevant on-hit effect, and then all of a sudden you're blocking. And as the Lexi player, you're having to give cards, and this turn you've been so thoughtfully and patiently setting up for yourself, this on-hit effect is relevant. That Artivore becomes so much worse.
Yeah.
And if you want to block with a bunch of cards and try to get to your Artivore, like, let me put the Artivore in the arsenal, then all of a sudden, another Spinal Crush. Like you said, he put it back into his deck, so even though it came in off the Codex of Frailty, now all of a sudden he might play 4 Spinal Crushes this game.
This is where timing is so relevant in these kinds of games, where we saw it in the previous semifinal where Cody Williams had a turn off, and it allowed Isaac Crute to play his hand out. It just so happened the hand he had was a Spinal Crush, which again is another devastating effect. And if Yuanji kind of has, or if Michael J attacks with a choke slam here, and Yuanji doesn't have cards that really require pumping or care about it, then it's just, it's a pedestrian attack. But the fact that it was timed up against a hand that potentially has Rain Razors, Artivore and whatever, that's where the timing of these kinds of things, it's one of those situations where, when you're playing and all of a sudden your opponent plays, it's like, okay, I've got the hand. The only thing that'll bust me up is this one card, and they just so happen to have it at the right time, and you're like, come on, like this is not the time.
Yep.
But look at this. Look how this cascades here. That choke slam that needed to be respected is now met with the momentum here on Michael J's side as he throws in a Command and Conquer to just continue to just shed cards out of Yuanji Li's hand, as it seems to be a 2-for-1 exchange here. And in this matchup where card economy is so vital, he is winning that battle. Michael J is definitely winning that battle.
Yeah, and there's 3 red pummels in Michael's deck, and Yuanji just snapped those 2 cards down. He said, "This is the semifinals. I can't play scared. If you got it, you got it. But I'm just going to continue with this turn." But he is really, as you said, that Artivore on that last turn that he was all set up to do, he just pitched it to the bottom. Like, he hasn't really done anything in these last couple turns, and it looks as though he's just willing to kind of, I'll take a Blue Thunderquake for 8. I'll take something that isn't going to impact my turn here, but let's see how these players want to continue. As you said, it's so interesting in a game like Flesh and Blood where one turn can just, you see it affect the next 4 or 5, and then you have to find your way back from there, and it really comes back to the one decision you made 3 turns, 4 turns prior.
Yep, Stealthy McStealthhammer here is probably, again, going to just get laughed at and going to connect for damage. We're probably going to see Yuanji just go ahead and take the life total. There it goes. Exactly. The world's most devastating weapon, because it never gets blocked, is the Titan's Fist, apparently, right here. But we're going to Sigil of Solace, and we're going backwards here. Michael J goes up to 37. And you're right about the whole aspect of, like, if you send a Thunderquake at me, if you send a Macho Grounder at me, it's all vanilla damage. It doesn't matter. In the previous matchup, we saw Cody Williams concede the match well ahead on life totals. It was like 20-12, and Cody was like, I can't do anything. So it doesn't matter if I have 20 health, 2,000 health. It doesn't matter. I give up. And it happens. So vanilla damage and taking the damage here, it's, Michael's not really concerned about that. The line to victory here is most likely going to be to just squeeze the resources out of Yuanji, weather the storm, and then get to it. That's why Yuanji is pitching cards like Artivore and such, because I think what Yuanji wants to do here is he wants to see Michael use the big D-reacts and the big defensive tools against the non-big turns. He wants to catch Yuanji on a turn where, or Yuanji wants to catch Michael on a turn where it's like, hey, you've got a staunch now, and I'm not really throwing too much at you. Maybe you send the 7 in front of a 5. Maybe you throw the Sink Below and the Fate for Scenes in front of these other cards, so that when I do find my Rain Razor's 3-of-a-kind turn, you might only have 3 blocks, and that's where I'm going to get the work done. So pitching a lot of the important cards, as you can see, the Rain Razors in the pitch zone right now, he's playing for late, and as you can see, on a turn that he's not pumping up too high, it's not a 3-of-a-kind turn, it's not an Artivore turn, it's not a Rain Razor's turn. He's buying cards like Fate for Scene out of him. So late game, Michael's going to have a lot less opportunity to use these defensive tools.
Yeah, absolutely. He is moving through the defense reactions, and we talked about him pitching that Endless Arrow in one of the first turns of the game. He pitched that Artivore away, and that Artivore is going to be 1 or 2 cards in front of this Rain Razor.
Yes.
So he's setting himself up for a big turn, even though Michael he's at 37. You're not even on the biggest of turns. You're not taking Oldhim down from 37 in one turn unless you're suddenly becoming a Drakaev Aether. But he happened to have the ability, like you said, there's one Fate Foreseen and there's one Sink Below, and those both went on 4s and 5s. Those didn't go on the Rain Razor's turn. So this is going to take Michael off an arsenal. This is going to give Yuanji a chance to have a 5-card hand into Oldhim without his Crown of Seeds active. Unless a Codex is played, that arsenal is going to stay open. So this is Yuanji's time now to see if he can buy that tempo for a little bit or at least get some life total points down, because Michael's sitting at a pretty comfy 37.
This is the second semifinals here. It is the Realm Brawl in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it's Green Tree Sports Cards with Realm Games bringing this to you. It is Sam, it is Flake. We're bringing you the action. And, yeah, I mean, the action has been hot and heavy on one side, but Michael has got his shots in. As you can see, the life totals are very much, leaning towards Oldham's side, as he doesn't really give much. And Yuanji has been... he hasn't been ultra aggressive, but he's been spreading it out relatively, fairly to a degree. He's trying not to put too many eggs in one basket. In the previous turn, we saw 3 back-to-back 3-of-a-kind turns, 2 of which had Rain Razors attached to it, and ultimately that didn't get the job done. Yuanji taking a different approach here with Codex of Inertia, which you said, you spoke to him, that he very much likes this card.
Yeah, and he elected, you see him tapping Lexi there, deciding if he was going to use the hero ability or not. But by not activating Lexi first, his arsenals are closed. He doesn't have a face-up card, so he only has the 1 slot, so he didn't have to just put a random card into his arsenal. He liked the cards in his hand and wanted to simply force Michael to get that Inertia token and pit the top card of his deck into his arsenal. So some cool sequencing there from Yuanji.
And he's sending an Infecting Shot, like you mentioned, one of the more potent arrows that have come out of Outsiders, and on hit, create a Blood Rot token. The Blood Rot token is devastating in certain, like you play that against a Dromai that runs a lot of reds, you play that against a Ninja that might not catch a blue. It could become devastating. Against a Guardian, however, where 60% of the deck is blue, it's not as devastating, but at the same time, I don't think Oldhim gives too much care to a Blood Rot. But look at this again. There's another Spinal Crush, as we've seen these Spinal Crushes making the circulation often and early and often.
And I'm not 2 turns now off this Inertia token. 2 turns we've seen an Inertia token come down. Yuanji try to buy himself a little time, buy himself a little resources, and instead it's Spinal Crush. So you have to suddenly block with at least 2 cards, and we're going to see the dreaded defensive Artivore. And I say dreaded, but high-level players, they're making this play all the time, and it's working out to their success. I know when I do it, I know I'm doing something wrong.
I have to tell you, so I was playing at a ProQuest in Minneapolis a few months ago. I made the top 8, and my opponent was a Phi. I was playing Oldhim. I had this dude beat. I presented lethal, and I pummeled my hammer. What occurred at that point was it was basically a miracle. It was a miracle Art of War drawing another Art of War to buff the defense to bring him down to 1. So they drew, it was Art of War into Art of War double buff to stay alive, and then they basically, I could not get back into the game at that point because I took a hell of a lot of damage to complete the game, and they miracle drew twice, but so the defensive Art of War was what got them into the semifinals. So big ups to that. It does work out.
It does work sometimes. And we saw Yuanji elect 2 on that last turn. He buffed his cards, and he blocked with one of his cards from Arsenal, which is text on the Art of War, following up with a Lightning Surge that was just blocked for 1. So now back to Michael coming in with the CNC.
Yeah, Yuanji's got to be thinking, every time I give you an inch, you take a mile, right? Every time I hit you with that Codex of Inertia and try to bust you up, you have the secret sauce.
It's not a blue Thunderquake.
No, it's not a blue Thunderquake. It's a Spinal Crush. Basically, he's saying, give me the Macho Grande, give me the Thunderquake, give me the garbage, I don't care. Give me the Choke Slam even. I'm fine with it. Stop hitting me with this defensive stuff, or this disruptive stuff, like the Spinal, like the Command and Conquer. As you can see, Yuanji has to take another turn off to respect these attacks. Michael hasn't been very aggressive. He's just been very effective.
Yeah. Ooh. That was nice.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that. So this is going to be that premeditate from Arsenal, and I think that was the other arsenal slot, which is the Bolton shot. So this is going to come in for 6, and we're finally seeing a Rain Razor. So
Boom.
this is threatening a reload. Now, it's only 2 above, so if he has an Earth card in hand, that Oldham Hero ability can just cover it right on up. But we're going to see if there's a D-React here, because this to throw the Rain Razors here, you have to think that that reload is going to be relevant for Yuanji, that he really wants to reload on this turn. He doesn't want to have to use his bow, perhaps giving a Frostbite or some other lightning-based effect from Lexi's hero ability. So we're going to see how Michael wants to try to navigate this. Does he have a D-React? Does he have an Earth card in his hand?
Yeah, it's a good question. He's going to take it, and what is he going to load up is the question here. Premeditate. Okay, so no reload, it seems.
So yeah, didn't want to use the...
Remorseless, my bad.
Yeah, exactly. And he didn't want to use his Tunic resource to play the card. This allowed him to reload, just shoot the Remorseless for 7. Now that last card in his hand is going to be able to be arsenaled. So he wanted to... This Rain Razors, it's not a 0 for 6 or a 0 for 8. It's a 0 for 4. But it's going to allow his next turn to potentially be even more effective, because he didn't have to use the card to pitch. He was able to just use that Tunic resource to come in with the Remorseless. And even though Remorseless has no D-Reacts from Arsenal, there's a Oasis Respite. That's not a D-React. That's just prevention of damage. So Michael's going to continue to sit at a comfy 34. The Ponder token is going to draw another card, but
like, look at these potent turns. These are the turns that against most other heroes gets all the work done, right?
Yep.
Those big turns, those Rain Razors turns, etc. And all he was able to do was just a little pat on the head, a little. He tied
2 damage.
He tied Oldham shoelaces together, and it doesn't do a whole lot. And worth noting, like you mentioned at the top of the match, is that you're running Vambrace. You're not running Bullseye, so you might not be able to extend those turns with the extra arrow on top, like many like to do. Usually, you find something like the Rain Razors into a endless arrow, and then it's like, okay, snap it, reload it, and then you get.
It can be a kill turn. It can be a combo. Yeah,
but you don't have access to that. It looks like Yuanji Lee here is more is valuing the sort of cancellation of the prevention effects more than anything else, and you got to respect that too. And Yuanji Lee is a world-class player.
Absolutely.
If he makes this decision, it's because he's practiced it and he's weighed the options, the pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did tell me it was somewhat theoretical. He said it was not, extensively tested, but he trusted it enough to try it in this large tournament. One thing I will say is I don't think we've seen him activate it once.
That's correct.
And Bullseye Bracers can represent, a pretty large arrow. He was talking to me about, doing your Bullseye Bracers can break the chain. If they've already used their Rampart once, suddenly their Rampart can come in for 2. So he was like, Bullseye Bracers against Oldham, doesn't necessarily do what it does into other matchups, but it at least does something. And we haven't seen that Van Brace be used yet. So if that Van Brace is going to be the inclusion, you'd have to hope that it's going to get some efficacy. It's going to get some use.
What's worth noting here as well, like if he says it's still theoretical, it's still sort of in testing phases.
Talk about a test.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't take this to a calling and say, I'm testing it out. This might be him saying, all right, me and my playtest group had an opportunity to test it. We're still kind of undecided. Let's take it to a bigger tournament and play against some really good players and see how they react to it, how they address it. And because you don't want to go to something like a calling and then with question marks, as it were. You want to go to a calling almost certain that every card is the best potential card for that particular slot. Here comes a drill shot. No, sorry, that is another infecting shot. It is a blue infecting shot, so it's just going to be 3 and easily covered up by a choke slam. No problemo there.
I'm curious how many cards are remaining in Yuanji's deck. He's not close to fatigue yet or anything like that.
I don't think so.
But you just got to wonder at this point in the game. There's been a lot of discarding off of his own codex, or not maybe a lot, but on this last turn when he played the Inertia, he did have to discard a Bolton shot. And that's a Bolton shot that you probably would have preferred to play, but he's valuing getting that Inertia token. But once again, on a turn that you've played your Codex of Inertia, and I think we've seen all 3 now, every single one has had a really relevant threat. There hasn't just been a Hammer for 4 on those turns. There hasn't just been the Blue Thunderquake. It's been Spinal Crush, Disable. So everything has to be respected every single time. And he's down to 17 all of a sudden. He's been taking some damage and now has to decide what does he want to do in face of this other effect.
Now, Disable, I believe, only allows you to get rid of 1 card. So Yuanji's saying,
sure.
Would you like the curtain? Would you like this or what's behind curtain number 1?
Exactly.
That's basically what it is, which is hilarious to me because it's exactly what happened there. And he's going to play another sigil on top of this. But what is so relevant in this particular matchup is every attack that Michael has sent that has been disruptive means the arrows you're donating, the cards you're donating to block, are arrows you're not going to see down the line that are going to hit you in the face. You're trading your efficient and disruptive attack for 2 or 3 threats from your opponent that you're not going to have to worry about. And late game, Rangers need every damn arrow they can get. And the trade-off is not just damage, it's not just attack and block, it's what that represents down the line. And that, I think, is so important here, whereas Michael is saying, I'm not going to throw a Thunderquake at you. I'm not going to throw a Glacial Footsteps at you because you don't care. I got to send things at you that you need to respect. Everything else is block fodder or pitch fodder.
Yeah, and I haven't seen every single card pitched. I haven't seen every single card blocked with, but we certainly haven't seen one of the 2 3-of-a-kinds played yet. And we have seen him pitching a number of cards to the bottom of the deck that are powerful, like that Rain Razors, like the Endless Arrow, and like the Art of War. So Yuanji, the Oldhim sitting at 33, and here's one of those power cards, and it's being played before anything else, which leads me to believe that another card is coming shortly that requires...
you know which one.
It requires cards to be played only from Arsenal. So we're going to get the Rain Razors out first, because coming up next is most likely the 3-of-a-kind. So we're
Wonderful.
Just on time. It's like he knew I was talking about it, and he wanted to make me look good.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen, I mean, and you already look so damn good. Like, it's almost a crime that your camera isn't on here as well.
Oh, please, dog.
But here we go. You open up with the peanut butter. Here comes the jelly, and look at this sliced bananas on top. I don't even know if that's a sandwich. But
No, yeah. And not according to Brody Spurlock.
No.
According to Brody Spurlock, his sandwich is 1 piece of bread, 2 pieces of ham, and then a second piece of bread.
Did you call it a hamwich?
No, I didn't. I just called him a sociopath. That's all I did.
All right, well, this is a nice startup to this turn, as it's going to be the Raisins with a Thunderquake mixing it up with a Endless Arrow. Quite the recipe for disaster over here. What a nasty effect here. 9 attack here, and I don't believe there's a Dominate associated with this. I could be wrong, but ultimately, hey, it's 9 with a recursive. So I think Michael actually has a Staunch. I don't know where it is.
If he does, I'm going to be so mad. No.
Well, that's the problem. You are going to be mad. Yanji's going to flip the table.
Yeah, so this 9, I mean, here's the thing. There's no other pumps coming from hand this turn because we have a 3-of-a-kind effect on the turn. So it looks like he's just going to block with 1 card, which might represent that Staunch response. But even if not, you can block this arrow out. But he did draw 3 cards and has another Voltaire activation, though there's no access to the Bullseye Bracer. So even on a big turn like this that represents the Frostbites, there's only one other way to get a card in the arsenal, save for a reload effect off a Bolton shot. So
I wish people could see that I actually legitimately leaned to the side to see what was in Yanji's hand.
Yeah, you did. And I wish it worked.
It did not quite work, but it looks like he's just going to block 5 here. It's going to be the Spinal Crush. There's another Spinal Crush, giving up a pummel as well. So going to take some damage. A Frostbite off of the Quake comes in as well. So that is going to be a recursive arrow. This is dangerous. And these are the turns, Sam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like this is also, that Frostbite can be relevant if there is something like a Staunch response, or if he does want to use his resources or the Crown of Seeds precisely. That Frostbite all of a sudden messes with that math. And I think that Frostbite's going to come in on the whole turn and the whole chain if anything else hits. So here comes another Bolton shot. But this is, I think, a blue one. So this is
still 5.
Still 5.
It's still 5, and it needs respect because it does create an opportunity to reload an arrow for free, which could be it could just be the Endless Arrow, and depending on what's left in the hand, you can just go, okay, pitch another arrow, and then you still have to deal with that Endless Arrow. And that Endless Arrow can get snapped, but you can't reload it because you don't have the bracers.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the bracers here, suddenly that Endless Arrow is coming in for 7. It's +2 off the Rain Razors, and it's +1 off the...
Oh!
Whoa,
what a hit!
That was a Quiver of Rustling Leaves activation. That's going to turn this into another Bolton shot for 5, and that Frostbite is still there on the stack. So that was a pretty cool Quiver activation. Just coming in for 4 here.
It's a blue boy, which is okay. There's nothing wrong there. He's going to go ahead and pitch through the Frostbite to get the activation of the Crown of Seeds, preventing 1, drawing a card, no problem. I love that. It's like Lexi comes in with this beautiful Voltaire. It's electrified. It's icified. And then she says, hey, let me use this bag of leaves to go ahead and get another massive threat against you. I've got leaves on my side.
Leaves on my side, indeed. Now look at this. Look how many cards Yuanji is currently holding in his hand.
3.
3 cards.
I think that's a Searing.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's another way to get a card into your arsenal here. Hasn't he used?
I don't think he's used. I don't know how many activations of the bow have been used. I haven't seen like the bow hasn't been sort of tapped, as it were. It hasn't been.
Yeah, no, I think because I've been counting because the Ice Quake was from the arsenal, and the other arsenal card he lost to the disables. So those 2 cards that were shot came from the bow. And without the bullseye bracers there, that's the end of the turn.
Yeah, and that
That's the end of the turn.
It could have been dangerous.
You
but
had an endless arrow in your hand.
But like Michael's at 29, you know, like the endless arrow is kind of like moot at that point. It's like, are you going to break the snappies to get there?
Yeah, and that, there is a chat coming in from Vero Prodigy that is asking if you can double activate the quiver on top of each other, which you absolutely can. You can put the trigger of the quiver on the stack, and before it resolves and destroys itself, respond to the second trigger. So Yuanji, again, world-class player, surely knows of that ability, either didn't have the blues in his hand or was just willing to try his luck on the first. But that, you go on a turn like that, perhaps that is a line you want to think about when you have the Rain Razor's activations already.
All right, we're off to the races again. This is the endless arrow for 4. Go again. Again, break points aplenty, no arsenal, so you're going to have to sort of expend 2 cards nonetheless. And card efficiency still on point here as the blue Thunderquake is pitched. Mulch combining with your Rampart of the Ram's Head to cover this up. And again, you know that Michael J is probably counting threats. He knows how many 3 of a kinds have been used, but bam, there's the old razzle dazzle Art of War over the top. He's going to probably pick the +1 draw 2. So this might be another one of those important turns.
Yeah, you have to wonder. I don't know how far through the cycles we are, but this was a Rain Razors and an Art of War scene very close together.
Yes.
The Art of War, I'm pretty sure, was pitched first.
It was pitched first, and I think 2 cards later comes the Rain Razors.
Yeah, so there's probably another Rain Razors coming if this is that Art of War that we saw pitched earlier. And that, I mean, honestly, this endless arrow that we're looking at could be that endless arrow we were talking about at the very beginning of the game. So we're potentially into those cycles at this point. This is going to be a Searing Shot coming in for 5 off of the Voltaire activation. So let's see how we want to continue the turn from here.
Yeah, but keep in mind, what was pitched on Michael's side in conjunction with this Art of War Rain Razors. It was a staunch.
It was a staunch, yeah. You're absolutely right.
He might be there, and with the amount of times that you use your Crown of Seeds, he might have actually got there faster. So he might have it ready to roll, but I don't think that Searing Shot is what you're really caring about right now. No. He's waiting for that art. He's waiting for the Endless, and here it is. He's gonna load it up. Mode there. Okay, so he's just gonna double block this. Easy peasy, no problem. It was loaded up with a +1. He's going to snap it. No cards left in hand, so he's got free reign here. But how does he load the bow? He's got 1 activation. He's got his Tunic ready to go. He's got a card in hand.
Now, I'm assuming that Art of War, the mode picked was Go Again. You have to imagine.
Well, no, he just snapped it, so it was +1. So
yeah, but I'm talking about the Searing Shot.
Oh, the Searing Shot was Go Again.
Okay. So then, yeah, this is just this is going to allow him to use the Codex of Frailty, which is going to most likely put a card for both players back into their arsenals from their graveyard.
Guess what Michael's going to get?
That's Command and Conquer.
It's either CNC or Spinal Crush. Yeah. Those are the most devastating hits here. At this rate, he snapped the Endless. And he's going to be like, okay, well, it's going to be Spinal. It's going to be Command and Conquer. What is it going to be? What is it going to be? In my opinion, you take the Spinal. But at the same time, they're both effectively the same thing at this rate.
Yeah, they're must-blocks.
They're must-block cards that block for 3 on Michael's side. And Michael's thinking right now, it's not about bringing you to 0 It's on your life total. It's about bringing you to 0 in your deck size. Like, that is the concern here. So Yuanji now wondering, like, what do I do here?
What am I doing?
Well, he's got a plan. Clearly, he snapped it, and he's got the Codex in hand. Did he commit a little too prematurely here?
Yeah, it seems like what is tripping or giving Yuanji pause is the thought of, again, what is Michael going to put into his arsenal? And it looks like he might have just activated his Scalers to just hang. Yeah, so he threw the Scalers onto the chain and is electing not to continue with the turn from there. So you have to wonder what's going on.
Ooh, that might have been a little bit of a misfire. He just kicked open the saloon doors and started shooting from the hip, not knowing what he was hitting. In this case, it's going to open with a premeditate and going to fire the bullseyes from the arsenal. This one coming in for, I believe it's going to be a 7. Yep, go again.
Interesting, yeah. Because that Codex of Frailty, it did represent damage, clearly, because Michael was out of cards. That Endless Arrow would have come through, or there would have been a Ponder activation, would have been a Frailty that wouldn't have probably been relevant. But that damage, I guess, wasn't as relevant for him on that turn as he expects it to be on a subsequent turn. Otherwise, you've already used the Snapdragon Scalers. Do you want to get some damage through? But he's valuing the effect of that Codex clearly in conjunction with other cards and other resources having been used from Michael that he did not see used on the turn right now.
So here's my assessment of why he didn't Codex and why he may have just jumped the gun on this. Is that if you Codex and let's say you put in a Endless Arrow, you're giving your opponent an arsenal. That opponent, your opponent, Michael J, can then use his Tunic, uses Tunic to cycle the card with the Tunic and the Crown of Seeds, pick up a 3-block, and then block that Endless Arrow for 4 anyways, and then it's completely moot. So that is my assessment of why he didn't do it. He snapped instinctively, and maybe he missed that there was still a resource. There's still the resources available for the Tunic. That is what I think that maybe Yanji missed in that point.
And there was resources floating as well, and that he has the Rampart of the Ram set at that point because the Codex is going to break the chain. The other thing that here's that Rain Razors we were talking about. It was 2 cards away from the Art of War. So perhaps he wanted to save. He has another Codex that he clearly also pitch decked for this situation as well. So knowing that the Codex that's in his arsenal could be paired with a Rain Razors that he knew clearly was coming in his next hand, that's something that he was electing to save for this turn when Michael is going to be basically shields down. He's going to once again be able to do that trick you're talking about to block at least 4. He has the 1 block left on his Creative Fist, and if, Panic Button, he has the block on his Tunic if he wishes to. But this is going to be first just a Bolt and Shot, and then he's going to be coming in with a Drill Shot after that. So this is a Bolt and Shot. Scott, you have to imagine this is the 5, so this is coming in for 6, the 4 for 6. It's always 5 off the Voltaire. So there's 2 Frailties on the line. 20 life for the Oldhim, 17 for Yuanji on Lexi. And we're going to first see the Crown of Seeds activation. We're going to put a damage prevention on the stack. We're going to go ahead and grab an arrow or a card that can be blocked with. And we're going to see how Michael wishes to use the card here.
Yanji at 17, Michael J at 20. This is the semifinals. Winner is going to face Isaac Kroot for the finals of the Realm Brawl 5K here in Pittsburgh, brought to you by Green Tree Sports Cards.
Yeah, so, Yuanji clearly hoping to get that Rampart of the Ram's Head, but we're looking at the cards in deck. We were talking about it earlier.
Oh, he's running thin.
He's running very thin, and
I'm
not sure he can get there from here.
One of my favorite things was seeing looking at the shadows of the discard pile over the top of the deck. I believe it was in Buffalo, and I was casting with Tanner DeMarco, which had the same last name as me. Wow. And we were doing these long mirror matches and such, and we're just looking at it, and we're like, I wonder how many cards are left. And we're like, look how long that shadow of the discard pile is over the top of the other. As we're coming back to the booth here, I don't know what happened.
Oh, he had 3 cards and he had.
He was done.
He just gave the fist bump.
I missed that because I was talking about shadows.
Yeah,
what am I, a caveman?
I was over.
All right, well there you have it. So it's going to be an Oldhim versus Oldhim final, and hey, the guy's already a living legend, so you can kind of bite your tongue on all of this, but it's going to be one hell of a matchup to wrap this up here, Sam. When it comes to the finals and the surge in Lexi's, there's always a policeman there to sort of just kind of give you a speeding ticket.
I hate the cops. Everyone hates the cops.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there were some great RTN streamed from Push the Point and the Armory Knights guys over in England, and they had this game streamed where I think it was Shamir, Shamhi, and Jacob Clements, and it was the buckle into the buckling blow, blow up the New Horizons, and it was GG's from there. Baby.
There's Shamir,
yeah, there he is. Yeah, we're talking about you right now, brother. But no, I'm sorry that we're talking about that game. But I'm talking about you.
Yeah.
But that wasn't required here, and that wasn't required in the game before, from what I understand. This was just Oldhim's using their defensive abilities efficiently. The Lexis were unable to find the way there, and I mean, we'll talk about the Van Bridge, or the Van Brace. We'll talk to Yuanji about it, hopefully. But it didn't seem to get the value he wished to out of it. He wasn't able to effectively use his cards to prevent those Crown of Seeds activations. So instead, it just kind of sat there as no block that you could pitch 1 for and make it a block 1. So,
yeah. And like taking a look at Michael's list here, they are running no buckling blow reds, and this is a list that I believe Team Dragon Shield was very high on. Matt Rogers coined it as a buckle 'em, which is basically you pair up a buckle and a buckling blow and just basically win the game against Lexi in that regard. It just completely nerfs her to a high degree, but none of the players here seem to be running that, at least none in the top 8. It's going to be Isaac Kroot. It's going to be Michael J. in the finals for the Realm Brawl here, and I say we're talking about buckle. Well, buckle up, okay?
It's going to be high stakes. Yeah. It's going to be fast and furious. There's going to be sledges. There's going to be Enothesis going back and forth.
Enothesosis.
It's Oldhim versus Oldhim. You've seen it before, but you won't be seeing it for that much longer, so why not come and hang out with these incredible casters and watch, because we don't get this for that much longer, guys. I mean, come on. It's an Oldhim mirror. It's everybody's favorite game of Flesh and Blood.
I kind of suspected it. That's why I got the silo-sized coffee, which when I'm done with this, I'm going to store my grain in it for the winter because it's so damn huge. But yeah, again, at the very best, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get an Oldhim mirror played by 2 of the best players in the world.
And one of the players who went, the only player who went undefeated. So if you want to see him play for that undefeated title, I mean, Isaac Kroot, no, you don't need to talk about his accolades. He's a stone cold killer. He walks in the room, people start to quake in the boots. So you want to see him do a battle, you'll be watching it here.
Damn right. All right, so don't go too far, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be back shortly, and then we're going to bring you the finals of the Realm Brawl here in Pittsburgh, brought to you by Realm Gaming and Green Tree Sports Cards. It's Sam. It's Flake. We got Charmer. We've got Brendan Patrick. Don't go too far.
Apparently, we are live, getting ready to come back for the finals. Hello, I am still Charmer, joined by Flake, a.k.a. Matt DeMarco. We are here in Pittsburgh for the Realm Brawl, brought to you, of course, by the Realm and Green Tree Sports. And we've got a bit of a heavyweight fight here for the finals. Is it any surprise that the living legend himself, Oldhim, is represented by both players in the finals?
Well, I'm going to pace myself for this one because it's going to take a while. So I don't want to get burned out with too many things said too quickly. Now, Oldhim, defense, love, mirror, Tannen.
I am not Tannen, sir. I am... Brian Gottlieb.
Are you really?
Yes.
Well, here, let me show you
this.
this.
Because I'm unable to read.
Yeah, this is a Codex of Inertia. Maybe you've read it. Yeah, friends, I just want to redirect you once more to the Realm Gaming Twitter account because we're giving away a Codex of Inertia Marvel that we opened on stream a couple hours ago. So if you go, if you follow, retweet, and bang, like the tweet as well, at the Realm Games 1 on Twitter, we're giving this badass Codex of Inertia away. So that's part of it.
I would now also like to redirect you to the game because we're ready to get started. These players, they know they're in for a slugfest and they want to get things kicked off here. And as we can see, it's already in motion. It's an untimed round, but they're wasting no time, starting with that Sigil of Solace on the side of Michael.
Yeah, and look at that. We actually have Tannen Grace in the chat as well, a legend of the format, as it were. T-Bones himself is here. We love it. But, yeah, it's going to be Michael J. versus, that is Isaac Kroot. Again, Isaac Kroot notably always just stacking his equipment 2 by 2, much like Noah did when he put all those animals in the Ark.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're Michael, you need to fight like you are the third monkey on the arc ramp, getting ready to board that boat because this is the finals. And my friend, it is raining. You need to ensure your spot in the end. And again, that's not Yonji Lee. We're getting that updated right now. That is Isaac Krut facing off against Michael.
Isaak Krut. DOA. Usually most of his opponents are, right? So opening up with a Spinal Crush met with a defense reaction and a standard 3-block. And look at this, once again, the Anathos for 4. It's going to be a hammer fest, man, I'm telling you. And nobody knows these kinds of Guardian types of play. You are a Guardian main, but you have kind of... Are you a Guardian main still? You've kind of shifted to an Azuri guy.
I am definitely on the Uzuri train just because she's so much fun to play. However, I will never abandon my best friend Bravo, my brother in arms Bravo. I do play a lot of Guardian. I've played a healthy amount of Oldhim as well, but I will say the improved specialization that was revealed from Bravo might have reignited some of my excitement in that realm as well.
Now, I don't know if we have a timer for this round. If anybody's out there is paying attention and got this timed up, I want to say I set the over/under on this match at 99 minutes. What are you hammering?
I think that it's going to be under because, yes, it's an Ultim Mirror. Yes, it's untimed, but these are two very experienced players. As you can see, we're kind of trucking through this as it is. I don't think that there's going to be a ton of deliberation in the early rounds because these players kind of know what's coming to the table. We're already seeing pummels thrown on hammer swings. Earlier, I also said that a lot of times these Oldhim mirrors or Guardian mirrors in general are a bit of a race to the bottom. You kind of pummel each other, pun intended here, left and right until you're in that sub-20 range, and then the game really starts when you're around 15 health.
There's not enough mileage in the world to attribute to the work that these hammers are going to be putting in. And Sledge of Anvilheim has been quickly replaced with the Anathos because you now have another way to sync resources and pitch to the Vambrace. Second Sigil of Solace comes into play, and all the work done is put for naught as basically, hey, what do we have here? It's even Steven across the board as Michael J is back at 40. Nothing changed.
No, nothing has changed. We are essentially back at square one. However, there has been obviously some cards that were attributed to these changes. We are not likely, I think, to go to fatigue here. I do think we'll end up seeing some sort of result before they get completely in the tank just because of the nature of some of the cards, like the one that's being pitched right now, Macho Grande.
Mm-hmm.
So you get folks low, and then you look for the key dominates to try to close things out. And as I said before, these are two experienced players. I don't suspect that this is going to go the actual marathon.
Cards like Macho Grande, I was telling Sam earlier in the... I don't know if you heard that. There's a flat-out first-degree murder occurring right now outside of the
yeah,
hall
I'm pretty
here.
sure that is absolutely coming through our microphones. And so what you need to know if you are watching at home is that is somebody finding out the finals was an Oldhim mirror, and that they are that upset.
I'm sorry. Yeah, listen, we're going to have to pace ourselves for this one, but ultimately, yeah, there was, in fact, that was basically somebody saw Elaine just waking up, and that was the result as she pokes her head in. Hi, Elaine. Yeah, it is the Oldhim final, so like it or not, shrieking will not change the reality here as it's a Command and Conquer that is being sent Oldham's way. Now, Command and Conquer against an Oldhim, not as effective as it would be against so many other heroes.
Right, because you can just get rid of your arsenal with that Crown of Seeds, you're very rarely getting that extra card elimination value, but obviously the other text is sometimes relevant. You cannot use defense reactions on the chain link. Oldhim certainly has the hero power, but also typically packs quite a few in the deck list as well. So we're going to, in all honesty, likely just see a 6-block here followed by, a pitch of blue hammer swing. That's going to be, I think, the pace of a lot of this as they churn through these early rounds. It's either going to be big hit followed up by big hit, or, you block 6, swing with hammer, maybe look for some other opening again, like with a pummel. So here we do see that 6-block. And yeah, if you're a fan of MC Hammer, this is an absolute great one for you because it's hammer time most of the time.
Now, in response to this pummel over the top of the Command and Conquer, you're going to use the Tunic to rescue your arsenal. Go ahead and put that away, grab a card, and you'll get the benefit of an extra prevention here as well, if necessary. Still, it's gonna cost you a card from hand here as the pummel's gonna connect for damage. You see Isaac Karut.
Yes, I was just about to say, this is not a pummel that was on the hammer before, so you will be getting that discard. But we're still going to see Pitch a Blue Hammer.
Pitch a Blue Hammer, that's the way to go. Again, 4 breakpoints. Those weapons are so effective where, and it's just going to get met up by one of these sink belows. So some of the defensive tools are getting exhausted here slowly but surely. But again, this is not necessarily a battle of stopping the major on hits. It's more so just preserving your life total and your card total as well, as that's why you're going to see so much mileage on these hammers over time.
Yeah.
E-Strike now, one of those cards that, again, can extend the combat chain to create various different, break points. You can probably suspect that this is a 5 go again. The 1 card left in hand might be a hammer follow-up. No card draw, so it's the 5 go again option here. And it's going to be a hammer follow-up here. I don't see what else it could possibly be.
Yeah, I guess I should remind you, we are supposed to be talking quieter because you said, I think it's the 5, and then he put the die there. And we were told earlier that we are supposed to be quiet. It is rather quiet out there, so perhaps we should bring our golf voices in. And no, it was entirely just a coincidence, obviously. But yes, this is going to be the old 5 go again. This is one of those awkward breakpoints for the Oldhim matchup because normally, like I said, you want to do like 6 block and then swing with hammer. But here, this 5 means you either take the 2 to have an additional block, or you're going to block 6 here and then have to hit the follow-up attack. And honestly, in the early stages of this game, that's going to be the windows these players are looking for to kind of get some sort of tempo or some sort of lead. A lot of times, the sooner you can get the other Oldhim player to full block from hand, the sooner you kind of take control of this matchup. This is like the rawest version of Flesh and Blood. It's really just kind of basic arithmetic. Who can get the most value out of each of their cards, right? So whenever you're getting full value from these sinks or you're leaking damage on cards like Enlightened Strike, that's where you actually get the edge in this.
So the sink below looks like nothing else happening here as the 5 go again is what is on the stack here. That's the bill that you've got to atone for here.
I think this might be a consideration for whether or not they want to use Crown to cover the last point.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it, whether you do it here or you do it off the hammer. The question is if you're intending to go ahead and make that happen anyways, it's 6 here, half a dozen on the other. I mean, it all kinds of equates to the same. The arithmetic, like you mentioned, is important. And already looking through the discard pile, quite early for that, but he's going to opt to go ahead and use the Crown, as it were, right out of the gate to go ahead and save it and or save the extra point of health. And a hammer is the follow-up here for 4. Now, what's important to note here, when we're talking about those card efficiencies and such, and giving up a pummel, big give up here in terms of that surprise factor. But look in the discard pile. That's an Autumn's Touch Blue. And if you're looking for card economy, having a defensive tool that you could use Oldham's ability with, pitching the Autumn's Touch Blue does a lot of work in terms of covering up break points perhaps and just soaking extra damage where necessary. That card given up is a pretty good tool as a Fate Foreseen meets this hammer halfway.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to point out, with that pummel, it's not even just the surprise, but with the basic arithmetic, right? Offensively, that's worth 4. Defensively, when you're blocking like that, it's just a 2. Now, it was a clunky card in the hand, so I don't necessarily blame Isaac. Excuse me, my brain was going faster than my mouth. For using it there, sometimes you just need to flush the cards out of your hand, but that's one of those inefficiencies where they can start to add up over the course of a game, right? You want to use your better 3 blocks where possible, and for a card that's offensive in nature, like the pummel, you would much rather be swinging it whenever you can, but I think that there might have just been a bit of a red heavy hand or something on the side of Isaac.
This is the finals of the Realm Brawl. Brought to you by Green Tree Sports here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I just want to say it like that. Why not?
Well, this is a great time to do it because this game is going to be a lot of counting. So if you're a fan of the count from Sesame Street, you can really get that in.
1 hammer. 2 hammers. He's going to give up by then. Yeah. All right, so Staunch Response is going to meet the 9 attack Spinal Crush. 2 is going to leak through. No crush effect. Doesn't matter typically, as Oldham's not very much the type to go again. But these decks do run cards like Zealous Belting. They do run cards like this, like E-Strike. So this is another opportunity. He's going to draw a card here instead, which is a fascinating get here. I'm wondering what the move is here, because there was always the opportunity to just go +2, bring it to 7, and drop a card in Arsenal. But maybe he's going to follow this up with, there it is.
I was going to say, I still think that this was a very red-heavy hand, and obviously Sigil, another red-heavy indicator, because we saw the block with the pummel and then with the draw here. I think this is just more about getting through this clunky phase. A lot of times when you're playing Guardian, I like to say it's actually more important to figure out what you do with your bad turns. Everyone kind of knows what to do when you're playing Guardian and you've got a good turn, but how do you mitigate when you draw those multiple reds that you're not looking for? How do you mitigate when, you know, you've got the pummel and nothing good to target it with? And so I think Isaac is just trying to get out of this clunky phase as fast as possible. And you mentioned the belting, and now we see one from Michael.
Zealous Belting, 5 go again, looks for the pitch zone. Do you have a card in there with higher attack than Zealous Belting? You do. That's, I believe, a Choke Slam. No, sorry,
looks like a Debilitate.
Yeah, Debilitate blue is a 6 attack, so Zealous Belting gets the go again. Fate Foreseen doesn't necessarily cover it all up, so you're going to get 1 extra point of damage through and follow up with the 6-point hammer. Wonderful, wonderful move here. And the departure from Sledge to the Anathos here is all because of that Vambrace.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Vambrace, and I also just think that when some of the other decks started to become a bit more popular, relying on Sledge for the 6 became, I think, less important, and because you can still get up to 6 with Anothos, but you don't necessarily need it every time. It's just a nice sub-in. Really, I think that the switch to this was more a focus on, if I'm not running Rampart, then what's the more efficient one, and still being able to go with a single blue and not have to wait for the Tunic ends up just being better in the current meta.
Correct. 2 cards in hand, it's like I can swing 6 for 2 cards, but then I give up an Arsenal, let's say. But Anathos always has the opportunity to just swing for 4 anyways, right? So here comes another attack, and once again, the card text that matters on Command & Conquer in this matchup isn't the assault on the Arsenal. It's more so the locking out the D-reacts. But we're going to meet 2 cards in the middle over here and just cancel that out, covering up the Command & Conquer, second Command & Conquer, I believe, played by Michael J.
I think one of the other nice things about switching to Anothos when you're piloting Oldhim is that if you even are just planning on swinging with the hammer, but you want to get that second card in, you still have plenty of ways to do it with like an offensive Crown of Seeds, for example. I know when you're piloting Bravo, a lot of times you'll cycle it through plating or through his hero ability just to get that extra card there. But you can do like the ramp play, if you will, with Crown and then still swing the hammer for 6 in a pinch.
Sometimes the players I like to make, like you do sort of those Hail Marys where you do the offensive Crown play with the blue, looking for the pummel, you know?
Yeah.
And then when you get it, you feel like a god. But that's not necessarily the play in this game. This is a game of patience and chip away, as it looks like Isaac Crute found a hand. And usually if you're holding, it's because you've got that specific card right there, which is Rouse the Ancients being paired up with a Command & Conquer and a Thunderquake. The math checks out. 7 go again. So it looks like Isaac Crute was completely content to take the damage here because he's sending it back in droves.
Right. You know, I mentioned earlier that this is a bit of a game about arithmetic, right? So you say, okay, if Michael is going to threaten 6, for example, but I can throw 7 followed by a 6, that's the bigger number. And while that sounds very reductive in these early stages here, that's exactly the math you do as the Oldhim player. Do I get more value on offense or more value from blocking? And until we get to the point where you really have to start protecting your health, or if there's ever any relevant on hits, and as you said, in this mirror, not really a lot of relevant on hits. This is just the math you do. So this is a nice 7 followed by a 6 on Anothos. Big 13 represented, and both players are now even at 28.
Pitch 6, do 13 in 2 pockets, and have an Arsenal. You got to like that, as the follow-up here is Anothos for 4, but you know this is going to be met with a Vambrace move as well. And at the moment, I mean, we're squared away, dude. It's 28 apiece here at the finals for the Realm Brawl Charmer and Flake are bringing you the action, but that is, I don't want to say that's a stretch because frankly, both players have been sending it. I mean, we've had some go again turns, we've had some fat Thunderquake turns, Spinal Crushes, Arouse the Ancients. This isn't kind of like a slow jog to the finish. They've been sprinting till I think it was you who said that, you know, the game really begins at 15 health or 10, you know, like right when you're close to that 10 mark. That's when some of the math kind of starts to get a little bit wonky, and you have to start respecting cards like Pummel and all this kind of nonsense, because one of the trixiest plays, if I can quote Gollum himself, or was it Smeagol, same person, is that cheeky little, throw the Anathos for 4 with the red Pummel in the pocket, so that 4 becomes a 10 real fast.
Even without that, so, you know, you mentioned the Vambrace, and earlier I had talked about, like, what I called the ramp or the offensive crown. The reality is because Vambrace is brought in to kind of battle against crown in this matchup, you do also have the ability to just present 4 and then pitch to the attack reaction portion of Vambrace, even if you're not worried about the prevention, to just make it suddenly go to 6, right? Like, there are some kind of cheeky ways that you can navigate this just to get that incidental damage going. And speaking of incidental damage, this is not incidental. This is very intentional. Another Rouse the Ancients coming from Isaac.
Now, keep in mind that this second Rouse the Ancients, that first one that he sent, he pitched a Rouse the Ancients. So there's another one around the bend, and the question is what is that going to get paired up with, as you got to think that Rouse the Ancients that he pitched is going to be stacked with the right recipe to send it down the line as well. Isaac Crude is getting the work done off the backs of these 7 go-agains, and we're going to follow it up with a 6-point hammer.
I was just about to say, I think the answer to your question is what's going to be here. So that other Rouse is now going to be paired with a Choke Slam and a Macho Grande here in the future, so that you can have that explosive turn. And that's actually going to be a big turning point if we do get to the second cycle, because not only is it a Rouse, but Macho Grande is very often one of your target cards for a finisher in this game because of the Dominate.
I mean, at this rate, it's just you and I talking about a Rouse. I mean, there's
that is very on par for us, actually.
Isaac here is just full-on arousal in this matchup, as he has been sending it. But the defense.
Well, you and I are a pair of old men as well. So if there was ever a time to rouse some ancients, it's with us.
Yeah, we'll just call it Guardian Viagra. Is that good? Is Arouse the Ancients the Guardian Viagra?
I don't think we're allowed to use brand names.
Sorry, is that the? Is there an actual sort of no-name brand, like Kirkland brand, like what do I say, call it boner pills? Like, what are you going to call it at this rate?
All right, so back to the match. We have 27 to 26. We are still, I think, moving at a relatively fast pace for an Oldhim mirror, especially for an untimed one. But like I said, I expect the early stages to go relatively well. We have an activation of the crown here on offense. So this is that kind of like ramping crown, or maybe you're just digging for more gas, and instead it's to load up a Zealous Belting.
So, on first glance, you're thinking, wow, Isaac Crude is really laid and on thick here. He's been basically on the offensive the entire time. But look at what that has sort of netted him. He's only been really putting through 13 damage when all's said and done after the sigils are factored in. But Michael, it's not like Michael doesn't have these cards in his deck. He's got them too. The question is that when does he find a window for it? Isaac's had the benefit of being able to find the right recipe turn after turn, where it's Rouse into Hammer, Zealous Belting into Hammer, things like that. Whereas Michael's going to eventually find a window to be able to send it right back. So this can change in a heartbeat. Isaac Crude has to be able to sort of start peeling cards away. The best thing that Isaac can hope for here is when he's sending it towards Michael, he's catching Michael on hands where Michael's holding almost similar cards or pieces like the Rouse the Ancients or the Zealous Beltings that Michael may have to actually commit to blocks. So Isaac might have a double duty opportunity here to catch Michael on the defense where he has to commit those big pieces.
Well, and I also think that we're kind of highlighting exactly why Oldhim has been so good in the current meta. When you don't have the offenses at Oldhim, you can still survive relatively well. So, yes, Isaac's been throwing the heat, but Michael's staying in the game because a lot of the Oldhim cards are good kind of both on offense and defense. Now, There we did see Michael have to block with a pummel. Earlier I highlighted with Isaac that it's probably because he had a bit of a clunky hand. We'll have to see if that was also the case. The fact that Michael's now using this crown on his turn, kind of, again, to dig, tells me that he was missing a piece, and it looks like he found at least part of the puzzle here, right? This is likely a Zealous belting into a hammer unless you really want to commit that other card to Arsenal, but you do have the opportunity to send here as well with the 6 or not. The Ice D-React actually turns off. This is one of those moments where, again, you do that arithmetic, right? You could spend a card to block that hammer when it comes for 6, or you could just negate it entirely with an Ice Pitch.
That's a very rare utilization of the Ice Pitch in this in the finals here and in the tournament altogether, because since Oldham basically lost the Winter's Whale, you no longer need to actually load the deck up with blue ice cards in order to swing Winter's Whale. Now you need more 3 or plus cost blue cards in order to fuel the Titan's Fist. But in this case, it's Anathos nonetheless. However, the build of the deck is the same. A lot of these Oldham decks aren't running a lot of ice cards anymore. 3, 6 maybe or so. So it's a very rare occurrence where an Ice React is the actual correct play. However, Isaac Crute found the right move here to save himself damage and prevent an Arsenal from Michael's side. But and he gets to follow up as well with a effective Tunic use, a blue pitch, and an 8 attack. So that is a very, very big turn from Isaac Crute.
You know, it's actually wild to me that not only did we see an Ice React use effectively, but it was in the Oldham Mirror of all places, where Go Again is not normally, on the menu when you're playing Oldham, and yet it comes up huge there because that was, again, basically a gain 6 health use of that Ice React. And we're right back to Isaac now throwing big attack after big attack. As you said before it was a blue pitch, Tunic into the Chokeslam. Now we have the Thunderquake just paid for the good old-fashioned way. And we are throwing 9.
Yep, 9 plus the 1. Just why not? A little return on investment. It's a red Thunderquake. It's a 10 spot. It's going to be met by 6 halfway. And look at the work that's done here. Isaac Crute is bringing him down to 17 to that crucial point where defense is going to become incredibly important. But once again, Isaac Crute is in the driver's seat. There's no doubt about it there. He is the one who's dictating the pace of the game. He's on the offense here. However, if you're on the offense, it means that you're using up a lot of those important offensive cards. Michael has, the same cards, and he's going to find them, and then it's going to be, the tables are going to be turned. The important part here is Michael needs to find those cards with a healthy stack on his life so that Isaac's not going to say, I'll just trade life with you.
Well, I think that what Isaac's game plan here is you want to get Michael low enough so that even if he starts firing back and you block out, when you hit your second cycle, he'll be low enough that that rouse setup that we saw into a potential macho the following turn is enough to get the job done, right? I think that Isaac, he saw that kind of combo assemble, and he knows, all right, if I can just get him to, let's say, 10 or less, I've got a shot at closing it out when I get there. Because, again, you're right. Michael at some point will send it back. But if Isaac can kind of gain the tempo advantage and then weather that storm, he'll be in a really good position once he hits second cycle to close it out.
Sending it back. Angry, like an old man sending soup back at the deli.
Yeah, I mean, this really is kind of like grumpy old men, and I know that that's a reference that most of our audience
Walter
probably won't
Matthau,
get.
Jack Lemmon, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we're also grumpy old men at this stage of our lives. Dude. There's going to be somebody like Brody Spurlock who's like, I don't know what that is. Is that on TikTok? How do I find this thing?
To him, a classic movie is like Zoolander. He's like, how is this not in black and white? This is a was that a movie from the 90s?
They had sound back then.
Yeah, exactly. Where are the? It's like a silent.
It's a
film.
talkie.
All right, we're back at it as the Sigil of Solace on Isaac Crute's side finally gets activated here, pumping him up. Keep in mind, Michael has used, I believe, 2 sigils. So
yes.
So a lot of work done. 29 damage has already been punched through by Isaac Crute. So
ooh.
Oh, he's loading up the pulverize. You know what this means? This means, dude, I have a nice cushion. I'm going to give you quite the pushing.
You know what else this is, though? This is a window for Michael because the text on Crown says that it has to be a face-down card. There have been times where I have seen players try to heave something, and then if the opposing player can generate enough offense where they have to block, the card gets stuck there. That would be huge. The problem, though, is that I don't think Michael has enough offense here. Yes, we do see the pummel, but I don't think he has enough where he's going to force cards out of Isaac's hand to strand that there. But that is always a risk. If you're playing Crown and you heave something, there is the possibility it gets stuck there. I think Isaac is got enough health and enough, obviously, defensive options with the sync that he's still going to get out of this just fine, which means now Michael is going to have to stare down a casual 14 damage.
Yeah, with a relevant on hit as well. So he timed it perfectly. 2 blues plus Tunic into the pulverized turn. It's gonna be fat. It's gonna be sassy. It's a 14 spot on the board over here. So this is just gonna basically demand everything you've got. He actually blocks 13 of the 14 and says, "Sure. I mean, I'll take one. I'm not attacking you." So
yeah, this is going to be an Arsenal pass turn. No free ads, of course, for our good friend Brendan, who's been helping us on the broadcast today, but this will be an Arsenal pass turn.
we love Brendan. Brendan's kind of like doing this. He's like sitting under the spotlights, just kind of doing a little sunbathing, as it were.
Yeah.
Shirt off. Just making it happen.
Just looking like
Sound off in chat if you guys want us to send you to just tweet a picture of Brendan with his shirt off, just sunbathing next to the thing. I mean, that you could do that during an Oldham mirror. Like, it's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. You know, earlier on the broadcast, I talked about how I recently celebrated my 39th birthday, and this Oldham mirror means by the end I'm celebrating my 50th birthday.
Not even 40th.
I just jumped right ahead.
Why not? An 11-year game. Why not? Yeah, when you turn 40, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk to you anymore.
I'm not allowed to talk to myself anymore. I think I just turned to dust at that point. I living legend out of life.
You just Thanos yourself. All right. Well, there's another pitch of probably the most pitched card in this particular matchup, which is Macho Grande. That's a high pitched card, and it's gonna go ahead and fuel up this Zealous Belting for a nice 5-go again.
Yeah, both players really want to use that to pitch early on because they know, again, that that's used to close things out. You don't want to use that dominate early. I know that it can be tempting. You're like, okay, I can leak damage, maybe catch them. But the reality is, again, you race to the bottom, and then you try to find the way to close it out. Whether it's Macho Grande, Footsteps is another very common one. Even though there's far less ice cards, you can sometimes get that pitch stacking working in your favor. And then also the Rouse combos that we've seen Isaac set up with a pitch stack earlier. So
good old Arouse combo.
Yeah. Rouse the Ancients.
That's
combo.
what I said. I said Arouse combo. Also my that is my OkCupid profile name, Arouse combo. All right, we're done with that. Okay. Let's get into the game. It's a Fate Foreseen that's going to soak up some of the damage. Hammer's going to go ahead and connect for a bit here. Well, more than a bit, actually. Yeah, as Isaac Crew, it looks like he's got some spice.
He's got some spice, and I think I can see a Tear Asunder there. So the question is this going to be a Tear Asunder on an actual attack to really push this, or is it going to be something else?
Oh, he's going for the ramp play. You got to love this over here. He's going to go ahead and activate the offensive Crown of Seeds to float 2, pick up another card. If that card is blue, he might have some actual sauce here. No, he's going for the, he's going for a Zealous Belting play. Was that a Zealous he pulled off the top?
But here's the thing. No, I don't think that was off the top. I think that he was probably just looking for another blue or something, because I suspect we could see something as impactful as this Zealous and then into either Hammer with the Arsenal, or again, maybe you're trying to set up. You can't really go with like a tear play at this point, just because you're gonna have to pay for the tear, and then there's not enough zero costs here. So this is probably just Hammer into the Arsenal. Yeah, we're gonna pitch the tear, and I like that. This is still a very high value turn, and that's going to be met with a Staunch.
Finds a Staunch. An efficient block here, but still brings him down to 9. Isaac Crude is getting the job done here. Does he have enough to come back on? And the answer there is, frankly, yes, because of that Rouse combo that we mentioned into potentially a closeout card like Macho Grande.
Did you just say a Rouse combo?
Yes.
Because I need you to know, Serene Shireen in chat has said Flake has been issued his second casting judge warning for excessive horny. So you got to be very careful from now on.
Yeah, but that's a subjective evaluation of what is excessive, It's 2023, man.
I don't know, because I only know the American measurements for horny and not the metric ones.
Oh,
so.
This is one of the attacks that actually would have stifled that move, which is a red chokeslam could have actually shut down the Rouse combo, as it would have basically meant that the Rouse would have just played for 0 go again, which is not what you want. But hey, look at that. Another Zealous Belting.
This is the third, I believe, from Isaac.
Correct. This is the third Zealous Belting. 5 go again. You can see how the Oldhim match has kind of taken off from fatigue and said, you know what, there's 2 ways you can fatigue. You can fatigue by just blocking a lot of their cards, or the other way to fatigue, frankly, is to say, hey, if I send a card at you and you take 2 cards to block it, I'm up on card efficiency there. I'm going to do the offensive fatigue.
Wow, and this is exactly where Isaac wanted Michael to be. I said anything sub 10 was looking good. We've got Michael all the way down to the 4 spot. Now, we also know Michael's already used 2 Sigils of Solace, so the ability to gain back health to get above 10 is no longer there. That means that if Isaac wants to now, he can switch into a defensive mode until he hits that combo that he set up with the pitch stack. Or if his hands are great, he can obviously continue to throw the gas. And he just took that hammer, so it's possible that it's still gas coming. Or,
boom,
or
there
it's possible,
it is.
Yeah, actually, you know what? It's possible he's already hit it because there's the Rouse and the Macho Grande. So if he's hitting that part of the pitch stack, I believe the next card on the top is probably the Chokeslam that he also sent. But yeah, this is exactly that window we were looking for.
Precisely, friends. If the significance of this turn dates back to probably 30 minutes ago or so, when this was the stacked card that were played earlier on. It is the Rouse into a pocketed Macho Grande for the follow-up turn. So Michael sees what's coming around the bend. He knows that he has to be very defensive here because he has to be able to withstand not just this 7 into 6, this 13-point just massive throw. It's more so you have to go ahead and withstand the 8 dominate that's coming around the bend as well. And keep in mind, he was caught with Arouse the Ancients in his hand, so that 2 block only couldn't cover the entire hammer. And on Isaac's side, you're looking at it, you're saying, okay, you sent one of your powerful cards into block. That's something I don't have to worry about. And here's the follow-up.
Now, the good news, if you're on the side of Michael, is that you do have access to Crown. You still have your boots as well. And you have Tunic if you need to in a pinch. We also have the pitch of the Heart of Findall on Michael's side, so he gains a health. That might be a bit of a reprieve there as well. The downside, though, is that even if you can survive this one, we've seen several Machos pitched and stacked by Isaac, so you're probably only a turn or 2 out, until you have to do this again. So this is kind of a likely survivable moment here, but a make-or-break turn in the next turn or 2 for whether or not you can follow it up.
It got covered completely, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, again, you had all of your tools here, right? You had the boots, you had the crown. It's just now you don't have some of those things. So
he actually came out of this ahead.
Well, he came out because of the heart, yes.
Yeah. So ultimately, you're still chipping away over here. So the follow-up, there's an Ice React card in hand. So Isaac Crute might actually just say, I'm taking away your arsenal, and I'm going to send it big here.
And that would be massive because the arsenal card turns off Crown. You don't have to then pay through your Vambrace. You can just go right in. But it also means that if you have another Dominate effect available, they would not be able to play like a D-React from the arsenal so that they can double up.
He's double blocking here, opting not to go ahead and give it up because I think he's got something in mind over here as Isaac Crute is looking to use the Tunic. I believe he's going to double pitch for another one.
There's another Macho. So we're going to have the Crown go so you can draw at least something to block. And he finds the Staunch. Wow.
What a massive turn of events over here. And not only that, but Michael has cards to play. He's coming in with a Tear Asunder matched up with the Anathos. This is 7 dominate on hit. Peel 2. No arsenal for Isaac Crute to lean on. He does have his boots, but there is no. This isn't a matchup where you're going to run something like the bracers. You don't have the arm piece to help you out
Crater
here.
Fist. You still don't have your Rampart because you opted to go with the Anathos, which again makes sense. But you do have Tunic if you have to throw it. It's not necessarily an emergency situation yet. Isaac obviously at 11 health, but the fact that Michael survived the Rouse into back-to-back Machos because of that rip off of the Crown is so important because he now has a little bit of breathing room to catch up. This is huge. This could not have went better for Michael, all things considered, because Isaac had a plan.
Isaac verifying the contents of the discard pile. It's nice and thick, fat and sassy. We're getting to the end game here as Michael J has really just waltzed his way around 3 devastating turns and actually came out a little ahead here as Isaac Root now under the gun. Tear Asunder dominating this Anathos. It's a 7 attack on hit. Isaac's going to have to give up some cards. So he's looking at his resources here. He's wondering if there's a way that he can actually just get ahead. Isaac Root gave up an arsenal to try to close out the game. Here come the clothes. He's sending in all the rags in front of him here. Vambrace. You've got a mulch blocking tunic as well as the boots. How is he going to navigate this? But keep in mind, every swing of the hammer is a potential lethal.
Yeah, so that was a cover, but as I said, you kind of have to use your tunic. I didn't think it was a break glass scenario, but perhaps he just wanted to keep the cards in hand because with Michael at 3, even just swinging this hammer still represents lethal. You're still peeling a card, right? So this is one of those scenarios where you give up your equipment because you can still kind of play defense through offense, giving your opponent less cards in hand, allowing yourself to also then give yourself back an arsenal for the future. I think this might have been the right call. This also tells me that Isaac is trying to make this game not go more than 3 turns because then you don't have to worry about the tunic value. And now Michael has to answer.
But I mean, yeah, exactly. Like in this case, if you don't give up the tunic, you're basically passing the turn. This at least presents a situation where Michael has to give some cards up, and that's what he does. He just full blocks here, keeps his health at 3. He's got an opportunity to swing an arsenal card. There's a Macho Grande. That's going to be making the wheel around, and Michael's hoping that he finds a window to use this. Isaac Root has given up all 3 Rouse the Ancients. He's given up all 3 Zealous Beltings. He's thrown his Pulverize at Michael. He's sent 2 Macho Grandes. Isaac Root is running out of kill shots, but here's another opportunity. It's a Tear Asunder into Hammer.
Yeah, and this is a 7 hammer, so this is a pretty big deal, but we do have a heart to get that health back, right, because the deck sizes are small. It's already made it back around. The other important piece here is that this crown will always be preventing now because Isaac had to block with his Vambrace, so he has no way to pay through that prevention. That could end up being a rather big deal here as well. The question now is whether or not you found enough with this to cover and then still take the discard, or do you want to, just cover in a different way? I think, yeah, we were going to give up our own Vambrace and then use the Earth React.
Card efficiency, Charmer. Yep. That's what we're talking about. As the decks get thinner and thinner, being able to have prevention or defensive abilities that do not cost you a card. One of those being Heart of Fyendal. Heart of Fyendal does nothing except claw you back to parity. And the Autumn's Touch here, it's a block 3, but look at the work it's done in the meantime. That Earth React, I believe, is already responsible for 4 damage prevention.
Well, I was about to say, I think that I have not seen a heart pitch at all on Isaac's side, and I have not seen many Earth cards. So the fact that Michael's already kind of found this loop of heart plus Earth React, if Isaac can't find enough to push this damage through, there's a scenario where Michael actually just closes this out, right? Like, I know he was down to the wire, but the fact that he survived the Rouse, he survived that double Macho, if we don't find... Well, we're going to have a Tear Asunder into Hammer again, but if we don't find some sort of offense from Isaac's side here soon, Michael has kind of found this recursive damage prevention cycle at this stage.
Well, I mean, Isaac also pitching away the last Macho Grande, which may be the last Bastion of Hope to a degree. I wonder what he's holding on to. He's coveting something in hand over the Dominate effect.
He doesn't have it. He didn't draw. So the Heart and the Earth React were down. Yeah, we can see it 2 cards down. He has a Rouse in hand, so that was only a 2 block. So Isaac does find enough offense to get there, but Michael was so close to hitting a point where he could just say, all right, I can close this gap now. What a game.
An absolute masterclass on both sides, frankly. Isaac Root just found the pieces he needed. And again, the evolution of the Oldham game. You go hyper defensive into fatigue. You got no clock to worry about. That's one opportunity. But it seems like the inclusion now, the resurgence of cards like Zealous Belting, E-Strike. Obviously, Rouse the Ancients has always been a part of the build, but we've seen what these cards can do. It's kind of like a reversal of the fatigue strategy, where if I just keep sending it, you're going to have have to double block, and I'm getting a 2-for-1 exchange on the card efficiency aspect, and that's where we get to the point. And like you mentioned, Isaac just seems to have had it so well tuned where it's like Rousey Ancients, Zealous Belting, Rousey Ancients, Terra Sunder, Macho Grande. He had it all to just eventually cross the finish line. So the fast and furious pace at the beginning met by a little bit of hammer exchanges here and there and finally closing it out and finding it. What a match. Isaac Crute is the winner of the Brawl here in Pittsburgh, brought to you by Realm Games and Green Tree Sports.
I just want to say real quick, I know that Ultim Mirrors are not necessarily everyone's favorite. It's not a fan favorite. If you were to poll a bunch of the Flesh and Blood community about like what kind of matchup you want to see, Ultim Mirror is not going to be near the top. However, I think that was actually a really good showcase, that game in particular, about what is core to Flesh and Blood. We saw break points, we saw a lot of good blocking, a lot of good offense, and then pitch stacking. Again, that's something I think is a bit underrated, but we clearly saw Isaac set up the combos, get himself in a position to take advantage of them, keep that foot on the gas. Like, I really feel like even though it might not have been the most exciting game, that was a clinic in how you play good, clean Flesh and Blood.
That's the way to go, and nobody's cleaner, more efficient, and frankly, just surgical as Isaac Crute, somebody whose only emotion is
did
kill,
we just
kill,
give
kill.
him his nickname? Is he Isaac the Surgeon Crute?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to upset him. He lives like 20 minutes away from me. So
I just don't want to upset Tariq Patel, like the actual.
Tariq Patel, like I said, has sent me a message this morning saying Canada treats U.S. tournaments like an ATM
machine.
Yeah, and I don't blame him because I think 3 of the 4 of the top 4 were Canadians.
They were, actually. That is correct. Again,
another near sweep here as the finals were Canadian, and it was taken home by Isaac Crute, who once again proves that the best part of North America, Canada. Easily. What? Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, children. Prove me wrong. Well, you're just going to sit there silently? That's right.
I don't have appropriate words for you that I can say on the air, but what I can say is that
Dude,
I appreciate the
pills.
people that are watching the broadcast, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. The best part about Flesh and Blood is the community, is the players. It's obviously telling that the game is centered around playing in the Flesh and Blood, and it's because of people like you. So thank you for joining us.
People like me?
Even people like you, as much as it pains me to say it.
I love it.
With the flake face.
Is that the flake face?
That was the flake face. You just did it.
Yeah.
That was a textbook example of the flake face.
It is. And one day...
and this is the Smuckers.
Yeah, the Smuckers. It's just like that smug smile after you say a really dumb pun that makes me want to just wring you out like a sponge. Friends, thank you so much again for joining us. I don't know if we're going to get an opportunity to speak to Isaac Crute, but I will say this. The last time I attempted to give an interview to Isaac Crute, Tannen is in chat, I believe, still possibly. Tannen also made a valiant attempt to speak to Isaac Crute, and it was basically, hey, do you have a few minutes for words? And Isaac's like, do I have to? And he's like, well, no. And then he didn't even say anything. He left. He just walked away. So all business.
Ivan Drogo, I'm telling you, man.
Totally.
Of Flesh and Blood, just
he's
get
got
the job done. Few words. I will break you. Leave with the cash.
Basically. Yeah. So there we have it, friends. No word necessarily on if we're going to get anything beyond the bend here, but I do want to remind everybody there is still a contest ongoing. If you go to the Realm Games Twitter account at the Realm Games 1,
as in the one and only Realm Games, obviously,
we are giving away a Marvel Codex of Inertia that we pulled here a few hours ago on stream.
Yep, pack fresh.
Oh, so fresh and so clean. Definitely gradable. It has been touched by multiple people here on the broadcast booth. So that either increases or decreases value based on how you like us.
And your signed Riptide.
Oh, right. And we signed some cards here. We've got a signed Adult Riptide with a Ponder in the back. We've got a signed Uzuri with a Ponder in the back.
And even Sam was kind enough to sign this Azalea with the Ponder on the back.
Sam signed an Azalea.
The Ponder on the back is very fitting because you are going to ponder why we sent you these, and we'll leave that up to you. But.
Yeah. So we'll add those into the Codex of Inertia just to say, basically to decrease the value of the package, so
and
we pay less for insurance.
And that's our way of saying thank you.
Is that our way of saying thank you?
No. The Inertia is the way of saying thank you, obviously. But
all right. Well, I think that does it for the broadcast. On behalf of Realm Games, Green Tree Sports, Brendan, who is hanging around,
Yep.
Sam, the production, everybody, the players, we want to say thank you for tuning in and for enjoying Flesh and Blood with us. Charmer, it is, as always, a tolerable experience to work with you.
Yes, this was moderately painful in the best of ways.
Wonderful. Okay, on that note, friends, we love you very much. Be kind to one another. Don't forget you're not losing if you're learning. We'll catch you at the next event. Stay tuned. Follow at the Realm Games 1. We'll see you soon.